Chapter 312, El Diablo, 12. How Taste Your Meat. Extra Chapter. Every, plus $10, Patron or PayPal. Extra Chapter, 5,000 votes. Extra Chapter, 8,000 votes. Just as John said, there is no better companion than the undead when someone ventures in oblivion. Not bound by morals or laws, fighting fire with fire is not a bad strategy, especially when the enemy is some sort of creature that only manifests in nightmares. John's force consisted of 300 undead creatures, showing a grand result in the first showdown with the Kirkers. The Wraithmen, which are heavily armored skeleton, withstood the first charge of the Kirkers and gave the archer bonemen in the back a chance to shoot arrows at those beasts. In the front of the army, a hulking bone samurai waved its crude blade and moved nimbly between the enemies in a speed unbefitting to its size. John has indeed done a splendid job installing combat techniques into that lightweight pile of bones. But not only Odakuro was the one who was shining, but there was also a very strong streak of lightning going through the ranks of the Kirkers. Isha was riding the storm Atronak horse that was summoned by the Spear of Bitter Mercy, and felt she was finally in her natural habitat. The battle maiden that was raised in the warring times between the crowns and the forebears of Hammerfell finally got to show her real skill at horsemanship and spearmanship. She was tearing those creatures apart, as if they were nothing, just with one sting from Bitter Mercy. La 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 la. She howled a battle scream and kept rushing towards El Diablo on his chicken mount. Amidst her rush, an abnormally large Kirker, with the features of a cock rooster rather than a hen, jumped towards her from the side with its talons, seeking to rip her apart. Isha was faced with either gambling and dodging the rooster Kirker or losing her charger while blocking it. There was no much time, and Isha was about to block, but a large black shadow flew over her head and landed on the rooster Kirker, obliterating it into pieces. Not tasty. A large black cat appeared on the dead rooster Kirker, pressing its head to the ground and mashing it like nothing. Nefertiti then sunk in shadow and appeared somewhere else as the Kirkers started getting smashed under her mighty paws. Isha couldn't be surprised anymore and only kept a fierce smile and charged forward towards El Diablo. As soon as she reached her target, a violent clash occurred between her and El Diablo. John Battleborn wasn't focusing on training lately, so his skill wasn't like John or Wulfur, so he would lose to Isha, who was on the level of Wulfur, but that wasn't the case. Just as John predicted, he was possessed by something. By just her intuition, she figured out who was the real El Diablo. It was the giant chicken. The power of John Battleborn seemed to have increased drastically for his normal level, and dragging a long battle would be dangerous for him. John started conveying orders to Isha and Nefertiti through telepathy, and the two cooperated in dragging John Battleborn and El Diablo away from the horde of the Kirkers. Odakuro, return. Odakuro slew the few Kirkers that were surrounding it and dashed towards John, who finished preparing the spell from one of the time magic tomes he gained from Earl. He kept the spell on hold and moved away from the protection of the undead while being covered by Odakuro. As soon as Odakuro reached him and both were away from any fighting, John put his hand on Odakuro and controlled the undead army through it. First, he broke the defensive formation and turned the battle into chaos, then cast a very daring spell. Corpse Explosion. The spell was conveyed through the undead to the corpses of the dead Kirkers and to the undead themselves. A large tremor could be felt, and the land started to shake. Not just a single explosion, but a series of large explosions of magic energy, Kirker meat and feathers, bone shards and broken weapons, even the dirt, wood, and rocks of the forest. Everything around the battlefield turned into a hellish scene. Fuck. Even John himself didn't see this one coming. His magicka was strong lately, but how strong did he get? He was very focused on meditation, without watching his state rising, but the sheer density of the magicka itself was mortifying. He even estimated that the explosion can be heard clearly in New Sheoth. Putting aside John, the ones who were not caught in the explosion, who were Isha, Nefertiti, El Diablo, and John Battleborn, were staring at the explosion and forgot their battle. Human, awesome, do it again. Gods. Buck 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 buck. Baka. El Diablo seemed to have been pained because of the large loss its kin suffered and no longer cared for Isha or Nefertiti. The power of the giant chicken was above and beyond any normal beast. Only the Firemane's grisly scarbears and frost dire wolves would compare to its might. It disobeyed its rider, who was going to focus on Isha and Nefertiti, and charged madly towards John. Krylin, watch out! Isha shouted atop of her voice and directed the storm Atronak horse she was riding to chase after El Diablo. Nefertiti sank in shadow and sped through the shadow world to reach John first. John was fully aware of what's happening, and instead of facing El Diablo, he stored Odokuro on the cube and started to run. This way, you stupid chicken! He kicked the ground towards the large boulder John Battleborn was standing on before the battle and ran with all his speed. He was so fast that the giant chicken was struggling to keep up. John reached the boulder right away and found what he was looking for, the place of the portal. Portals from Oblivion to the mortal world were hard to open, especially from Oblivion due to the protection of the dragon god Akatosh, but that was no problem for John. He simply could use the skeleton key. A keyhole formed itself on the place of the portal and, click. Stop making that sound, John shouted at the skeleton key. But the poor object had no power but to take John's magicka and open a portal. As the portal opened, it was wormhole towards Mundus rather than a direct gate. John did that using the principles of space magic and time magic to apply his scheme. El Diablo and John Battleborn reached John, and only a few meters were between them. John was ever so vigilant to his back, and just as he was about to get attacked, he teleported behind El Diablo and attacked it with the Thursdayum. Fuss. A strong wave of raw force pushed El Diablo into the portal. The two couldn't resist the push, fell into the portal. Human. Krylin, are you all right? Yeah, we don't have enough time. Get ready. John cast the spell he was preparing from the beginning of the battle on the portal. The portal colors and actions started to change, and a great amount of energy came from it. What is that? We are not only going to travel through space, but through time too, John declared with an ecstatic voice. Is that all right? Isha was hesitant. Well, no one did it before, so it should be, right? Tall Papa, save me. She was on the verge of tears, but time was up. John dragged her and Nefertiti into the portal. Riverwood. John and Isha appeared right outside the place where he left a mark behind the wall of Riverwood. John checked with the augur that couldn't reach him in the Shivering Isles and confirmed the time. Perfect. He was excited and started sneaking away towards the mountain across the river without making a single trace of energy leak out. Isha was following him silently, waiting for him to fill her in, but she still had a strange feeling. Krylin, are you feeling that too? She asked. I know what you are going to tell, but don't follow your hunch this time. If you did, you may cause a dragon break, he said, and kept walking silently. A dragon break? A time break, to be accurate. Dragon breaks are when realities collide and all come true at once. Don't worry, when the current situation is over, that feeling will go away. She didn't understand what was going on, but as soon as John found a place in the mountain forest to hide in, he looked back at Riverwood and pointed. Look towards the place of the prison cell where the Oblivion Rift was, he said. Isha looked towards it and focused her eyes. For a strong warrior like her, it was no problem to see this far. What am I looking for? She asked. Wait for it. Here it comes. John made sure to block the sounds around them in case Isha freaked out, and, gods, she did freak out. Hee. Awesome, man. I look so cool from afar. John and Isha were watching something that did not happen in fairy tales itself. Just over there in the village, there were two versions of themselves sneaking into the prison cell of Riverwood. The two versions seemed to be focusing on each other and didn't notice John and Isha. About a minute later, the two versions opened the Oblivion Rift and traveled through it. Okay, it is done now. Wait, what was that? Isha shouted. John smiled under the mask. There was no problem in her causing a ruckus now. We traveled back to Mundus not just by space but by time. We came a few minutes earlier to when we left. What? How is that even possible? The answer is the simplest of them all. It just works. John made a particular tone while answering the question. Don't just works me. Explain it. Was that us? Yep, the genuine very us from the past. I couldn't exactly tell what time we should arrive on, but I didn't miss too much. Remember when you arrived in Oblivion one day before me? Yes. It was then when I realized that time travel is possible. John, my friend, didn't miss his wedding after all this madness. Ahahaha. Aren't I just awesome? Fuck. Isha was at a loss of what to do or say. She promised herself she would be cool around John and not get surprised like an idiot, but that one completely got her. The only reason we couldn't meet our versions was because of an event known as the Dragon Break. It is when the time of the world gets injured and the dragon god become forced to put back all the realities together. If we met them, there will be 2 Krylin and 2 Ishas. Understand now? I see. Actually, we are not done yet. El Diablo should be traveling through the portal here. I delayed their arrival, but I can summon them now. Are you ready? I am finishing this labor and will never see you again, right? Probably. Good. Maybe the 2 past versions of us return as 2 mad villains that want to haunt us and take our places, so we should, just in case. Stop it. Okay. Just kidding. Just kidding. John shook his head and cast a spell towards empty space, and a portal appeared. He then cast a few other spells and used the skeleton key to make the last touches. Here it comes. John put back all the tool spells he had and took out Blood Skull, waiting for the arrival of El Diablo and John Battleborn. The portal moved chaotically, and a large figure jumped out of it. El Diablo and John Battleborn fell on the ground. John and Isha looked down at them and smiled. How tastes your meat, Diablo? PayPal, 50 SS equals $1. PayPal, me/Eldokmezi. Patreon, remove the dash. Patreon.com/Eldokmezi. Discord, GG/GKCKVA7. Chapter 313, The Spokesman, the 5,000 votes extra chapter, every, plus $10, patron or PayPal. Extra chapter, 8,000 votes. What do you mean I got drunk and walked through the forest to Riverwood? My friend, you got sank yourself in mead yesterday. I doubt that you even remember anything you said or did. I guess you're right. I am no milk drinker who can't hold his drink. Tell me, how much did it take for me to get pissed drunk and pass out in Riverwood? 2 barrels, I think. Oh, I think I outdid myself this time. Thank you, my friend. Here, take this hangover remedy and get dressed in those. I handed John Battleborn a clean robe that I prepared beforehand. He was already cleaned up in the river, and everything was going well. Thank you, John. I don't know what I have done without you. No worries, John. Oh, right, John. What is the time now? We are not that late, John. We still can make it with magic. Ahaha, you are the smart one, after all, John. Well, what are you waiting for? Hold on tight, John. You are enjoying this thing with our names. Right, John? Yes, John. My name in my past life was very common, and I used to do the same with my friends who have the same name. Oh, right. Apparently my real father is also called John too. Damn, John. You found your real father? Yes, but it's a secret, John. He is way too ugly to relate to me. Well, I don't think whatever, John. I carried John Battleborn with telekinesis and flew up with levitate. It took me nearly 5 minutes to cross the woods of Riverwood at my top speed and finally reached Whiterun. Flying over cities was banned throughout the Empire, so we had to land outside the city in a hidden place, then run to the city gate as fast as we could. Once we were checked out, we headed towards the Greymane Manor. The one who met us first was Wulfer. Where in Oblivion have you been? He asked. In Oblivion, the Shivering Isles to be exact. Anyway, is everything okay? I said. Not really. The Imperial spies showed up. It seemed that they decided to confront us directly without sneaking around. What? What did those fuckers do? John Battleborn turned pale in an instant. They came with the Jarl as his guests. Of course, they will try to cause discord between the families, so you should be wary. Also, you are late. The elders are getting impatient, and the Imperials will surely take advantage of that. Damn them. Leave it to me. Just look dignified and follow my lead. I said. What will you do? I will be your lawyer. I mean your spokesman. As the three of us agreed on what to do, John Battleborn walked in with two massive hooligans behind him, Wolf and I. The old White Wolves team from almost 3 years ago. The first sight that we saw was the elders and the males from all the clans sitting around the fire pit in the Greymane Manor. They were Alfred and Idolaf Battleborn, Ireland and Vigner Greyman, Jarl Balgruuf the Greater, as well as other esteemed gentlemen from around Whiterun. Behind the seats of the men were the seats of the women. I could see Alina and Alfina, as well as the other old and young ladies. The gazes that fell on John Battleborn were heavy and sharp. He looked around and walked right in. Father-in-law. The two nodded to him without saying anything. You are late. Thorold Greymane spoke. Oh, yes, brother-in-law. I was busy doing my things and took me quite a while. Was hard to get into these fancy robes. John deflected Thorold smoothly, and the latter smiled without going further. John Battleborn was mentally prepared for all manners of provocations during this event. Still, the elders didn't seem to be intending to move the situation. I could figure it out as Jarl Balgruuf was here, and he still was the head of Whiterun, and had to say a word for the sake of courtesy. Yet he looked troubled, and the next words didn't come from him, but from the Imperial man beside him. I heard it is very rude to be late for your wedding here in Skyrim. Something about tradition and that. Looks like the young generation is not that much into traditions. The man talked to the people around him, but with a voice audible enough to be heard by the whole gathering. As the elders heard what he said, signs of dissatisfaction started to appear in their eyes. The Imperial was indeed bold, but John Battleborn was still at fault. Uncles, Jarl Balgruuf, esteemed guests. I walked past John Battleborn and greeted the gathering. Thane John Dare. Thane John. The people nodded to greeting and focused on me. Last night, my brothers and I went on one of those bachelor parties where things go wrong in every inconceivable was. Very funny was last night. I remember this guy drinking 2 haunting brew barrels on his own. Quiet the sight, believe me. I said and turned around to face the other direction of the gathering. But that's not what is important here. What is important here is that we gathered here today to celebrate life and success, and that's what we'll be doing. What I love most about us people is how far that can go, and how far can we sacrifice for the things we desire and the ones we love. A man that is willing to go to the ends of Nirn to protect what he desires, to bash through what hinders him from left and right for the sake of his loved ones. Now that's a man I can trust. I said as I patted the shoulder of John Battleborn. Oh, if they know things we do for love. I turned around and faced Alina and Jelinar, who were standing at the back. The elders who were sitting around nodded to those last words of mine. We Nords value tradition above all else and honor the forefathers and boast with their glories all day long. Greymanes, the finest smiths in the land. Battleborns, the wealthiest traders. All with grand history and far glory that reaches the name of the ever so honored in the Hall of Shore, Iskromer. Yeah, well said. The people started to finally heat up. Yesterday when my brother and I were swimming in mead, my brother John Battleborn over here whispered something to me. He said that he was thinking of the fairest maiden to his eyes, and he wished to do something for her, something that revives the old traditions and brings honor to her name. I, as a dead drunk back then, may or may not have mentioned something about making a grand deed. I started to pull the interest of the people around me. John almost tilted his head as I was clearly making up things. That night, my brother John Battleborn went on his own when everyone was passed out with a sword in hand and entered the forest to the south. He swore to hunt a mighty beast for the sake of Alfina. Oh, the people gathering around were in awe. It was a foolish act yet brave and manly. They were all anticipating what John hunted. Just to put your minds at ease, I am not going to tell the details of the hunt. It was way too chaotic, and the notion of a mighty beast can be very weird in the perspective of a drunken person. Ha 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 ha. Laughs echoed through the hall. Show us already. Yeah, don't hold us all that time. Fine, fine. Everyone, clear the place in the middle. I said and moved everyone to the back. A little bit more if you may. I urged them back a bit more. Just how big was his hunt? Someone asked. He said it himself. A drunken person perspective can turn a tree into a beast. Haha. Yes, it happens. As the people cleared the place, I spread my hands around, and a large magic circle was formed above me. It was just a distraction for me to take out the thing from the cube. Thud. A large thing hit the ground, and the people around the hall jumped away. It was El Diablo. A deathly silence followed the appearance of the giant chicken. Everyone simply looked at it while going through some sort of a lag. Even John Battleborn himself was frozen. I have convinced him outside that he hunted a large beast, but I didn't give any details due to the tight time. I am sure he will handle it well. Anyway, I walked beside him and held his arm up while shouting, "Yeah!" The people looked at me with frenzied eyes, then realized what had happened. "Yeah, yeah." The situation turned into complete chaos. For such a chicken to exist, it was something worthy of making a ruckus after all. What saved John Battleborn was the fact that he was drunk and he didn't remember a thing, but he was still proud of the result and acted as the king of the world. I left him with Wolfer and the rest and headed outside the town to a certain estate. It was the Dare Dragon Company's outpost. Before I go in, I put my Krylin mask on, then walked inside. Krylin? Human. Two ladies were waiting for me in there, Isha and Nefertiti. "I trust that you two hand a safe journey to this place," I said. "Yes, thanks to little Nefertiti here, I didn't have to lose my way again," Isha replied. "Thank you for letting us have El Diablo. It will be cooked now. You should wait and have a taste." "Another time, my friend. I had enough madness for one lifetime ever since I met you." "Haha, sorry about that." The atmosphere was a bit empty as we're done with our journey together. "Here, I prepared this for you." I handed her a magic tome. This is how to use the Spear of Bitter Mercy's function to conjure storm Atronak mounts. You will find a spell for it and many notes I added. "Oh, thank you, Krylin. I guess I will learn magic then." She took the tome and kept it. We looked at each other once again and she spoke. "I guess this is it." "I guess so. Well, then, till I see you again, Krylin." "You too, Isha," she said and walked out of the estate, but before she passed the door, she stopped and looked at me. "Hey, remember that time when I told you about the labors? You didn't take it rather well back then." She brought out a topic I didn't want to hear. "Hey, don't worry too much. You are a capable person, the most capable in my opinion. Whenever your labors will come and whatever it is, you will make it, man," she said as if she read my mind. I am not worried about the labors," I said. "I know. No one does. No one should. What we all fear is what they hold against us." "You sound like a guy who has much to lose, Krylin," she said. "Yeah. Don't worry. I am heading to my final labor now. It will be in Morrowind. Gods know how long it will take, a year too." She paused and spoke again. "I miss my brother back in Hammerfell, but I know that nothing bad will happen to him until I am done. Don't worry, friend. Don't worry." She said those words and left. I was standing with solemn expressions behind my mask. I knew the day is drawing nearer and the Azura will come to claim the price. Little did I know that the Wheel of Fate has already spun. PayPal, 50 SS equals $1. PayPal, me/Eldokmezi. Patreon, remove the dash. Patreon.com/Eldokmezi. Discord, GG/GKCKVA7. Chapter 314, Delivering. Extra Chapter, Every, plus $10, Patron or PayPal. Extra Chapter, 5,000 votes. Extra Chapter, 8,000 votes. 40H of Sun's Dusk, November, 4E197. 1 week after John Battleborn's wedding in the Firemane clan grounds, John arrived with Nurina, Alina, and the rest of the household. The ones who met him after the mountain tunnel were his cousins. Hafthor, Vladimir. "John Hild, you are late, cousin. Where is mother?" "At the keep. You've got to hurry up." The group sped through the Firemane glade and town, arriving at the keep at the end of the road. John walked in the place where his height wasn't that remarkable and passed through his relatives until he arrived on the second floor. He was led by the servants to a place where only his father Jonrad and his grandfather Tormund were waiting. Patriarch Tormund, Brother Jonrad, how is she? Nerina asked. She has been in there for half an hour now. But how did you arrive that fast? Tormund Firemane asked. We received a telepathic call from Grandma Jenna. Master Nerina teleported us at the gates right away. Alina replied. Yes, magic. Explains everything nowadays. Tormund didn't think too much about it. John Hild, I wanted your mother to see you before she goes in, Jonrad said as he patted John's shoulder. Why? I just wanted her to focus on your face so she can do a better job with the kid she is going to deliver. Can't have another kid as ugly as you. Do you want me to mess with your face, ugly old man? You too, take it out. Sorry, father. Sorry, grandfather. Earlier this morning, Hilda had the signs of giving birth as her water broke. The whole clan was flipped upside down, and the second floor of the keep was fairly emptied for her. John was summoned by the telepathy scroll that Nerina left for the firemen's, and they arrived as fast as they could. Of course, it was faster than what anyone would expect. With everyone waiting outside the door of the room where Hilda was giving birth, the events going inside were pretty much audible. Damn, did you feel that? I feel like Hilda punched someone. Jonrad thought out loud. Or someone punched from inside. John had a more terrifying thought. Kid, you are evil. Just what I caught from you, old man. Young John and old John were having their own spar of words just in front of the door, but what they didn't expect was a large woman coming out of the door and sending them away like loosened kites with a push. Out of my way. Someone bring some warm water here. Scotty Firemane brought a wooden tub and shoved it at the nearest ones in front of her who were sent flying. On it, Alina took the tub and went on the errand. I think we should move out of the way. Good call. Time passed, and the two oversized troublemakers were called back again. Jonrad, they need you in there. Tormund pushed Jonrad towards the door, and nervousness started to appear on the latter's face. Jonrad and John both were nervous since Hilda went, and especially Jonrad. He was trying to not worry John by acting normal and funny around him, yet John noticed that since the beginning. Now in front of the door, the only free ones were John and his grandfather Tormund. Grandfather, do all the men in the clan act cheeky when they get nervous? John asked. Haha, it's the theme of the family, boy. I see. I took that one too. What? You are all a fireman, the most one of us. Safe to say, other than me and the kid that is being delivered right now, you are a fireman from both the father and the mother. If only. If only. Sigh. I check the stars before dawn every day since last month. You mean? I see. Apparently, Tormund Firemane was checking on the stars every night to see if they would turn into the Serpent constellation or not. The Serpent would come any day once a year, and very randomly at that. To Tormund Firemane, his grandchild John was born under it. His son-in-law Jonrad was born under it, and V.E. was born under it. V. Firemane, Jonrad's father and Tormund's cousin who was as close as a brother, one of the survivors of the Great Collapse, and the former patriarch of the clan. He was born under the Serpent too? I thought serpents can't be patriarchs. They can't. Well, it was only him and I along with few children and women that survived and went to seek shelter at the Moonblade's home. I was injured, and he led the Firemane bloodline to survival. We needed a miracle to establish ourselves again, and we bet on the fate of the Serpent. We survived, thrived, and grew to what you see today. I see. Not too bad then, the Serpent. I mean, Tormund didn't reply. John felt the awkwardness in the air and spoke. Mother asked me to check for the stars too, and it seemed that this is not the night of the Serpent, John said. Tormund turned to John with questioning eyes. You see, my grandmaster, Nerina's master is an almighty powerful wizard. I did he a favor lately and asked her about the Serpent Night. It seems to be happening at the first days of Dawn's Star, December, John said. Oh, I see. Thank you, child. Tormund's face became better. If VE's another grandson was also born under the serpent, then the line of VE was truly favored to be tested by the gods in Tormund's point of view. Tormund always wanted to see one of VE's children to inherit the title of the clan head one day, and now it seems possible. Father didn't tell me much about him. Grandpa V. Jon said. He was a large warrior who favored the small weapon. Axes and arming swords, not too much of a long sword wielder like you. Just give him to axes or 2 swords, then point him somewhere. He always delivered. I followed him since we were lads, but he was older, and he wanted to leave for his own adventure. He ended up in Cyrodiil and became a mercenary. Not much love was for Cyrodiil, then especially after the Mede dynasty taking over and the Oblivion crisis still fresh in memory. When he returned, he was on some sort of a quest to hunt down some evil that got some of his friends. Not sharing much with me back then, he kept it all in his mind until Winterhold fell, and we struggled till we reached here. We thrived thanks to him, but he was still being haunted by something. After your father was born, he left the clan for me to lead and went on some hunt somewhere. We heard he is fighting a great enemy and went after him. We took the ships and sailed west. The Moonblade swore to follow, and our sworn brother Jor Moonblade, Sigurd's father, came with me. Jonrad was 16 by then. Tormund, who got immersed in the story, halted as he noticed he was going to tell a grim tale. Jon didn't ask his grandfather but kept looking. A tale for another time. Maybe your father will tell you. I see. What about my father? What is there that I don't know about him? Jon asked. Just look at yourself in a mirror, boy. You will know. Tormund smiled and said, Come on, Grandpa. I'm way more handsome. See you, your father and your grandfather. You are all that stubborn Nord that you can't tell anything to without cracking your skulls first. I am not going to disagree here, Jon said. Oh, one last thing you have in common. You 3 are all clever men. Clever man is a Nord native word that means mage. Grandfather VE was a mage too? Not that much. You are a better mage than your father. Your father is a better mage than his. From what I know, each one of you had a style. You are the bad image of mages who do strange things that no one understands. What is your specialty, if you don't mind me asking? Thanks, I am a mystic. Well, Jonrad is the famed King of Ash. He likes to burn stuff and do things like dragons. A dragon knight? Yes, that's the word. V was not that much. Actually, Hildy fights like him. A healer who fights and heals himself constantly to keep fighting longer and longer until they sink in a blood sea of their making. Your grandfather liked to enchant too, and he was good at it. Really? Is there anything I can see? Jon's eyes brightened up. Here. Tormund took his sword and showed it to Jon. Isn't that Gram? Jon asked. Yes. Gram is the sword of the Firemane Patriarch, the sword that represents the family. An ebony one-handed sword with a golden hilt and a magnificent craftsmanship. Jon always admired the sword, but he knew that Wulfr will be able to craft something similar one day, but now as the sword was in his hand, he could feel the enchantment on it. The first was a flame enchantment, as expected of a Firemane. The second came as a bit of surprise. It was truly domineering and powerful, a disintegration enchantment that can break weapons and armors like mush. Truly amazing. Jon's eyes were lusting for the sword now. Keep it in your pants, boy. That's exactly where it is going, Jon said. Can I try something? I promise I won't cause a scene. Fine, but do it away. Jon nodded and pointed the sword away from the crowded area, then called out Greed and told it to mix with Gram. A one-handed ebony sword with a great craftsmanship was mixed with a shadowy entity that can transform items into a version more befitting for the nature of enchanting soul and the enchantment type. The result was shocking. Gram transformed from its normal Carolingian sword appearance to demonic one, much like a Daedric sword from the game. Greed, which had the ability to show the true nature of things it mixes with, showed an image Jon didn't foresee. Grandfather, do you have any details on the soul Grandfather VE used to enchant this blade with? Jon turned around and asked Tormund, whose mouth was open agape. Jon retreated, Greed, back under his sleeves and handed the sword back to his grandfather. What? The type of the soul that was used for the initial enchantment. I suspect it is the soul of a Daedra, am I right? John asked. Tormund was still recovering from the shock, but he shook his head. The soul? It is not. It was a vampire's soul. Your grandfather was a vampire hunter. The revelation that Tormund let out was shocking, but John wasn't taken aback that much. Vampire hunting is a noble cause if the vampire was a harmful one. To John's knowledge, vampires from the game and vampires, in reality, are really a world apart. There are normal vampires and noble vampires, as expected, but the power and the diversity are far beyond the game. Vampires were an interesting research topic, but John kept it under the rug as there weren't much details outside the forbidden section in the college's Arcaneum. I guess that's to be expected from my dear family. The grandfather is a vampire hunter, the father is a Dragonite X-Blade, and I am a Dragonborn. My dear descendants, please don't disappoint your forefathers and conquer the world. John was shaking his head left and right while sighing. It seems heroics were deep in the family. But still, the story that Tormund won't tell got him thinking. John knew that his grandfather V died in battle defending Tormund and John Rad, and that was a thing that the two of them don't prefer to talk about and turn cold if someone asked them. A few in the clan know the tale, but John can't ask really in the open. While his turmoil of thoughts, the door to the room opened and John Rad walked out. A silly smile was hanging on his face and a blue bruise around his left eye. John laughed and Tormund shook his head. Yeah, your mother is a feisty one. You can come in. It's a twin. A boy and a girl. PayPal, 50 SS equals $1. PayPal, me/Eldokmezi. Patreon, remove the dash. Patreon.com/Eldokmezi. Discord. GG/GKCKVA7. Chapter 315, Thor and Iden. Extra Chapter. Every, plus $10, patron or PayPal. Extra Chapter, 5,000 votes. Extra Chapter, 8,000 votes. Asterisk a week later. Star. Look at those two cuties. John Hild. If you wake them up, you won't see the end of it. Roll over here. Yes, Ma. Just on what basis can one deny to the right of getting close to those two cuties? I understand they are the devils that can't be put to sleep easily, but they are way too cute. A boy and a girl, that's what the family was blessed with. The boy is Thor and the girl is Iden. The cute aura they emit can melt away any aura in existence. Even Nefertiti is very fond of them. She comes to see them from afar, then runs away immediately. Curious little humans, she calls them. My real brother and sister that share blood with me. Now that's something. Nurina discarded all her duties on Loneth and decided to stay in the Firemane clan a few more days, or maybe months, depending on how can we force an overpowered Dumbair mage to leave. And speaking of Loneth, we had to send Uncle Tyr to her, as it seems the two share a history that I am not informed about. Anyway, it was very peaceful and harmonious around here. Everyone gave Hilda her space, as it seemed that her skills of raising kids got rusty. She was perfect at keeping one from falling into the hands of the Thalmor, though. The one who was happy the most was John Rad. He made a few parties here and there and danced till he fell. Each day was a celebration of a sort during the past week. Because of the Firemane's long lifespan that is double the normal Nords, the birth rate is low, but having twins is quite the common thing. This is all due to the giant's bloodline in us. Hilda and Scotty are twins, cousins Vladimir and Veka are twins, cousins Signy and Eirik are twins, and so on. Thor and Iden. You decided on those names too fast. Oh, that was when you were born. We didn't expect anything to happen back then, so we planned those names for the newborn, whether a boy or a girl. The idea of calling you John Hild only came to us after we realized we may not continue together as a family for a long time, so we had to keep you with something of us, and John Hild became John. If only we knew you would become this ugly, John Rad said. The only reason I am not beating your face to a mirror is to not wake up those two angels, I said. You two hate looking alike that much? Hilda asked. We are nothing alike. Suit yourselves. You two are sleeping together in the barn, by the way, until you sort out that ugliness thing between you, Hilda said. Come on, don't be like that. It's insolvable. How can you even ask for such a thing? That's final. Fine, I am going out for a drink with Bragi. Jonrad excused himself and went out. I watched him pick his katana and head out. He always keep his weapons close just like me. Damn, too many similarities. So, how do you feel? Do you want me to do something around? I asked Hilda. Oh, will you listen to this good boy? You finally decided to put down whatever you were tinkering with and decided to help me? In my hand, there was a light screen and I was trying to apply a new method of a binary enchantment on it. I was just working, you know? Yeah. Keep doing whatever that is and don't come to me when you can't see anymore. Fine. I know a few healing spells that can cure blindness anyway. Suit yourself. Hilda was in a good mood after Thor, and Aiden went asleep. Oh, right. I spoke with Grandpa about combat last week. Good. Your grandfather is really a great warrior. I can't defeat him no matter what I tried. Yeah, we spoke about your fighting style too. He told me that you learned something or two from Grandpa V. He said that?
Yes.
I was choosing my words carefully here. Hilda looked away and nodded. It is true. I learned something or two. I was very young back then when he was alive, but I heard about the way he fought, and I imitated it till I came with my own. I see. How did Grandpa fight then? Father fights with a sword and shield like a true war chief. I am asking about Grandpa V, I said. Hilda looked at me and narrowed her eyes. Why is this sudden interest in your grandfather? Nothing. I just got curious because of your answers. Curiosity killed the cat. It wouldn't dare. This saying offends me a lot. Haha, oops. Almost woke the kids. Shut up. Hilda looked at me and smiled. Don't bother about learning my style and go learn from your father. I am not trying to do so. Really? I thought you were curious because you wanted to learn. Learn fighting like a mad person who doesn't bother getting injured to heal himself over and over. Sorry, I have my own fighting style and I am quite satisfied with it. Then why are you asking? Fine. Grandpa let me hold the family's sword, Graham, and I checked the enchantment on it, then learned it was enchanted by Grandpa V, so I got curious. Father let you hold Graham? Hilda was taken aback for some reason. Father doesn't let anyone other than Jonrad and Sigurd. Oh, I see. She thought for a while, then looked at me with narrowed eyes. I know that Father sometimes has a big mouth. What else did you get from him? Nothing. Why would I? Speak. Father let you hold Graham, which means he opened up for you. You were smart, John, but I know my father way better. Okay, I found out that enchantment soul of Graham is a vampire soul, and Grandpa confirmed my suspicions when he told me that Grandpa V used to hunt vampires. So he told you. Hilda seemed bothered by the fact. And, listen, John Hild, I am going to conclude it for you. Vampires are a sensitive topic in our clan and in the Moonblade clan. Don't go asking around and get yourself in trouble. All you need to know is, your father Jonrad and father-in-law Sigurd have a big grudge against vampires. Your grandfather VE and Alina's grandfather Jor Moonblade were both killed on the hands of those creatures, and just because of the danger, we managed to convince Sigurd and Jonrad to not go after them. Don't you open up old wounds, son. Understand? Why, yes. Hilda's tone was annoyed, but I could see that she was very sincere. So VE Firemane and Jor Moonblade, sworn brothers to Grandpa Tormund, were killed by vampires. This matter is getting deeper and deeper. I am not sure if I will like it or not, but I think I shouldn't dig around the subject for now and let it go for the time being. You are leaving already? Sorry, Hilda. That boy will cause a scene if we don't go back. Hilda and Nurina were saying goodbyes to each other, but it was really hard to part from those two little cute brother and sister of mine. Human, look, they are dreaming. Even Nefertiti couldn't keep her eyes off them. This goodbye is getting harder by the second. Do you really have to go? Hilda asked. Yes, I am having an important meeting in Solitude in the next month. The High King is calling for an assembly before the yearly tournament. I need to assemble a team to represent Winterhold and ready some stuff for the event. You know how things go with politicians. You can never be extra careful around those twerps. Then I wish you luck, kid. Come see your brother and sister after that is over. Hilda said. Now that I think about it, if nothing rudely appeared in my schedule, then I am free after the assembly. That's good. I promise I will come. I will come to get you if you didn't, and it won't be nice. Hilda hugged me and said so. Fine. That day, I departed from the clan grounds, hoping to return after a month or two at the very most. The assembly will take a lot of my time, and effort, and Wulfur will be leaving to Orsinium, the Orc kingdom between Skyrim and Hammerfell. Anyway, the assembly is what matters now. I don't Ulfric Stormcloak, Layla Lawgiver, Dingir of Stun, and Skald the Elder would attend this assembly. They were already trying to press Jarl Career not to go and send a few messages for me. I also suspect that Skald the Elder, Jarl of the Pale, will do something rash if I traveled through his land to Solitude. The man is completely nuts. Last month, we received refugees from his hold, but that was not interesting. The interesting thing was the identity of these refugees. They were giants. It seemed that Skald doesn't like me so much to the point that he pushes the giants and mammoths from his hold to mine. Handling the giants is actually something that needed to be done before leaving to Solitude, and lucky for me, the firemen's agreed to lend a hand. Aunt Scotty will come to talk some sense into those giants. Still, there was that feeling that I was missing something and things were going wrong from a direction that I was not watching. I just couldn't get rid of that feeling. PayPal, 50SS equals $1. PayPal, me/Eldokmezi. Pat Rayon, remove the dash. Pat Rayon, com/Eldokmezi. Discord, GG/GKCKVA7. Chapter 316, Loose Ends. Extra Chapter, Every, plus $10, Patron or PayPal. Extra Chapter, 5,000 votes. Extra Chapter, 8,000 votes. For bodies collided with each other in a close manner, erotic moans and huffs went loose only to be blocked from leaking outside by the trusty enchantments on the walls of the room. John and his women were having a love night in the middle of the night in their home. Ela was opening lying on the bed having Jelinar over her, whose waist was raised while being bounded by John. He, on the other hand, was carrying Alina and engaging with her in a heated, kissing battle. He switched between the three girls every now and lined them up to have his way with them. Unlike the other girls outside his household, those three girlfriends of his were all powerful warriors that can withstand him going all wild. The loving Alina, the energetic Jelinar, and the wild Ela were the best he can ask for. Other than them, ordinary girls don't last anymore. He even stopped going to the bathhouse after what happened in the Shivering Isles. After putting the three girls down and they laid nude around him, he started thinking of the rise of power he possessed. He looked at the status window provided by the augur and sighed. +++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++ Level 9. Iron Bone Stage, Dragon Frame Realm. Vitality, 1521. Magicka, 3979. Powers, Agent of Talos, Fortify Thursdayum. Agent of Kine, Empower Thursdayum. Agent of Allmaker, Root of Power, 2500% Magicka Regeneration. Agent of Shiagarath, Mad Champion, 2500% Vitality, Regeneration. The Guardian Dragon, Ashen Flame. Black Book, Bardic Knowledge. Shadowstone, Blur, Fortify Speed, Hide in Shadows, Fortify Sneaking. Firemane, Titanborn, Beastmaster, Fireborn, 50% Resist Flame Element. Nord, Battle Cry, Frost, 50% Resist Frost Element. Battle Spirit, Tyrant Aura, Mad Aura, Lightning Aura. Magic, Mysticism, Expert. Destruction, Expert. Conjuration, Expert. Enchanting, Expert. Alteration, Adept. Restoration, Adept. Illusion, Apprentice. Alchemy, Apprentice. Thursdayum, Unrelenting Force, Clear Skies, Aura Whisper, Frost Breath, Fire Breath, Whirlwind Sprint. Plus 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 plus. Goddamn, when did I become this ridiculous? John shot up to level 9 Ironbone stage after meditating the past few days and was on the verge of a breakthrough to the next stage. The power bestowed on him by Sheogorath was surely something, but there was a sure surprise that John discovered there. He understood that the blessings of gods are like marks they cast on mortals. These marks are made of energy, and it is possible to absorb it. With further process in his meditative training, John was sure that he can turn those blessings from a mere gift into independent characteristics that are part of him and not from the authority of some original spirit. The idea was terrifying in a sort. He can have as much power for his own for life, even if he went out of the influence of those original spirits. What are you smiling at? Alina seemed to be still awake. Nothing. Just a few ideas in my head. Then let's leave those sleepy heads in this room and continue somewhere else, she said while smiling brightly. I am awake. Me too. Ha. None was asleep as it seemed. I recover so fast nowadays, Ela said. Perks of being one of us, Joel said. Okay, Ela said and closed her eyes. Hey John, this wolf girl is so stern and bites a lot, Joel complained. I am not sure what to do with that too, John replied. Ela has a stern personality and barely smiles. She also has many secrets and keeps to herself. Other than her hunting gear and favorite dagger collection, Joel and Alina knew few about her. John heard a few stories about her childhood from her, but his feelings for her were because of her personality nonetheless. He likes how she acts and loves her rough nature. Sure, the others would take some time to get used to her. You three act nice when I am not around, or else?
Yes.
Okay. MHM. It is almost dawn. I will go wash and head to the office. John went off and the girls went to their own affairs. Alina was normally free, so she would only go to the college too or help at the company. Joel took the Inuit glowing potion that she made from Nirnroot and stored it in the room, and Ela went to sharpen her new arrows and get ready for another hunt. It was the 15th of Sun's Dusk, November, and John had to conclude a lot of work today. The first thing he needed to do was to finalize the schedule of the new projects for the new year and prepare a worthy, old life, and new life festivals for Winterhold and Neo-Sarthal. He also reviews the last year activity reports of the 7 major departments of the Dare Dragon Company, and they are the Dare Security, the Dare Arsenal, the Dare Pharmacy, the Dare Constructions, the Dare Trading, the Dare Fleet, and the Dare Essentials. He couldn't help but smile when he saw the huge growth of his company compared to last year and how it took thousands upon thousands of warriors, scribes, farmers, and miners. He was truly a king in the world of business, and even if the hypnosis spell was removed from Jarl Career, there is no getting rid of the Dare Dragon Company as long as John is breathing. And that brings him to the second issue he had to solve, Jarl Career. Up until now, Jarl Career was under John's complete control, and there was no way he would break unless someone knowledgeable about hypnosis came to erase the control. Still, that didn't mean Career was in a normal state. Sometimes, his inner consciousness would try to fight that control, and it comes in the form of lags and panic attacks like how it happened in front of the Imperial envoy once. John was sure that his enemies will try to use such a thing to expose him in front of the assembly, and he had to solve this one. At noon, he went to the Black Room, the new prison of Winterhold. Accompanying him was Julliner, Jarl Career, and some loyal guards from Team Zero. They arrived in a certain room that was prepared beforehand, and John, Joel, and Jarl Career entered. The room was completely empty except for one torture chair. Jarl Career, would you please sit on the chair here? Oh, gladly. Career answered the way he would always answer with, and sat on the chair like an idiot. Joel, strap him to the chair. Julliner nodded and did what John asked. She was in Winterhold from the beginning and knew how vicious and cruel Jarl Career was. She was happily strapping him to the chair, and Career cooperated easily. Thank you, John said, and Joel left the room. Now there was only John and Career alone. From the cube, John called a small enchanting table and took a few tools, then looked at Career and spoke. Program 1, deactivate. Program 2, deactivate. Program 3, deactivate. The hypnosis was broken from Jarl Career and he froze. John simply took the helm of Winterhold. off the head of Career and started erasing the enchantment on it. Jarl Career was still frozen in place, being hit by a long train of realizations. Rage, anger, humiliation, sadness, fear, anxiety, worry, wrath, dread, hopelessness, more anger, more of those emotions, 2 years or so worth of shock and disbelief. He looked at John, who was simply working on his next evil scheme, and his face twisted. He had a lot in mind, but all these emotions ended up in a pained cry. A man weeping. John paused for a little before returning to his work again. You, I will destroy you. Jarl Career's face was red with all those suppressed emotions. John didn't reply. What you did. I am Jarl. I am the damn Jarl. How dare you? Slap. Noisy. Career's face turned swollen from the slap. John's hand was not something any man can get slapped with and remain intact afterward. Career was still looking with hate towards John. Why? Why? Why would you do that to me? Career was infuriated. Oh, well, I guess for one to rise, one must fall. The gods won't let that slide. You, evil mage. The gods won't let you off. John laughed and shook his head. And why would those guys feel wronged for you? Who do you think you are, mere mortal? Those so-called gods of yours, the 9, the 8, the Daedra, and all those spirits. You think they care about you for just being hypnotized for 2 years? They saw you do more than that for much longer than that, and they were pretty much cool with it. You are a monster. Manipulated me, humiliated me. You are a monster. Career's tone was heavy. Huh? Acting righteously now? John mocked and shook his head. The likes of you disgust me, Jarl Career. What you got is far less than what you deserved. I ended your former masters, the Bloodsails and the Bloodhorkers. I removed all kinds of influence the Jarl of Winterhold had and put them all in my hand. Hell, you don't even have a single loyal guard. They all work for me now. I pay them after all. Just you wait. Just wait. You can't kill me. You can't keep me here either. Once I get out, I know how to get everything back. You think so? We'll see. We will see, John Dare. Stop acting like a third-rate villain and shut up then. Villain? You think I am a villain? You are the villains. All you mages are villains. You bastards. John stopped what he was doing and looked to Career, then took out a chair and sat facing him. Mages? Was it all about mages and how you hate them? Yes, it was always about mages. It was always you evil low scum. You filthy bastards. You bring crisis, plagues, evil. You even wanted to bring oblivion itself and doom the world. And the collapse. That was the last stroke. The world will know. Career kept going on and on about his hate to mages until John got bored. I have your wife and child, John said. Career paused and his face turned pale. He didn't speak. Don't worry, your kid joined a school where they teach useful knowledge as well as a small course of magic. As for your wife, she has made a very profiting business for herself. They couldn't be better under your rule, and now they are better under mine. They are safe and happy. That wife of yours that was just as an anti-magic fanatic as you is now happy knowing that her son is learning magic at the school with other kids. She knows that he will grow to be a smart man with a bright future. John smiled and opened his hand wide. I made that happen to him and to many other. Career body was twitching, learning that his son is using magic now. Just how far did things go out of the way? Change happened, Jarl Career. Change is inevitable. Change is sacred. Change is nature. You stepped on those good people of Winterhold thinking that this way, you can amass enough force to drive away the college. Did you know that the one who built the college was one of the greatest mages of all time? He was a Nord, and his name is Shalater. He built the college, and the town came to be later to become the capital of Skyrim. What a history! John stood up and strode across the room. Such a beautiful world has an oppressor like you who hates magic. I'd say that those who discriminate against magic are idiotic monkeys, people who should revert to the Stone Age and live like animals. Magic. It means freedom, power, and ability. Oppressors like you must hate a power that is free for everyone and can tilt the scale of power with a single spell. Why? Because you are sick control freaks. Let me tell you a story about a world that has no magic or any special way for its inhabitants to make a difference. There are advanced science, power of finances, knowledge, voice of the populace, and all that jazz. Still, there were limitations due to money, and the people were always oppressed by governments controlled by the likes of you. That Winterhold, a town that was destroyed 80 years ago. 80 years for fuck's sake. In a world of magic. 80 years of complete sitting still. How the fuck was that even possible? What did you and your predecessors do apart from nothing useful? In that magicless world, a country called Japan was really strong and domineering. Its people were vicious and scary. These people participated in a bloody conflict called World War II, and they carved a bloody scar on one of the world's superpowers back then. The only way to put them down was to smite them with an atomic bomb. Do you know what an atomic bomb is? It will make the Great Collapse and the eruption of the Red Mountain look like complete silly jokes. The Oblivion Crisis was even manageable, but that was a piece of doomsday itself. After that war, Japan was surely domesticated by the victorious Allies and got brainwashed generation after the other to convince them of being peaceful and non-violent. Well, I am losing to the tale. The point is here, after they got bombed, they needed much less than 80 years to get back on their feet and become a leading country in the world once again. They made a strong economy and a solid base to support their country for generations. On the other hand, there were countries like Egypt, one that didn't participate in the war whatsoever. They suffered some minor losses and lost a few soldiers, but in the end, they never did shit. What they did was to overthrow the Egyptian king and make a republic that made matters even worse, and the economy remained shit. The military power was also shit. Do you know why, Jarl Career? Because the ones who governed Egypt were all like you. No real democracy, no real economy. The reason was simple. There was just another country that was acting like the blood sales and made the weak countries its little farms, mines, and barns. That's how the world works. Fancy people in fancy places deciding the lives of the small folk, whether they are their populace or just another country they use. Those fancy people would hate for the small people to acquire what they can defy them with, and that was simply power. Call it knowledge, science, hacking, or even magic. To people like you, it is your poison. Seeing the small folk controlling their own fate just makes you scared and causes you to feel weak and not in control. This is why you hate magic, Jarl Career. You just can't accept it around any Jarl other than you. That idiot Skald the Elder of Dawnstar has his court wizard but you. If you were to know the power you could just possess by magic, things would have turned the other way around for this hold. You may not be the same monster as much as those ones I was talking about, but I think you are a pitiful disqualified man as person, as a ruler, and as everything really. I am going to fix that. John finished his long speech to the silent Career that was just looking at him with bloodshot, broken eyes. Oh, look how much time we have wasted. You are really a good listener, Jarl Career. I give you that. Now to the matter at hand. John started to organize his work and finished what he was doing. What will you do to me? What magic will you curse me with this time? Career spoke in a weak, defeated tone. Curse? Sadly, no. I am doing you a favor this time, something that you don't deserve. John said as he reviewed his note on the enchantment he just made on a regular circlet. He took the circlet and put it on Career's head properly as the later tried to resist. I am making you into a proper Jarl. No more tricks or hypnosis. This is the real thing. The enchantment on this thing will make your mind and will vulnerable. Not that you will feel it, but it will make you tell the truth when spoken to and stuff like that. Pretty simple. But the fun part is not here yet. The use of this is to weaken your mind momentarily, and then we will get rid of it. What I need it for now is to use it to change you, in other words, to bend your will. What John said made Career's eyes widen. He understood what he was doing right away. It is going to change him, cleanse him, and redo him forever. The Career that entered this room was a man, and the one after this process will be another man. How could he not understand when he is strapped to a chair and was about to have such a thing done to him? That's, how can the gods allow such magic to exist? It's forbidden. Stop. I beg you. Please, stop. I have a kid, please. Easy. Relax. It is not that bad. John smiled brightly. You will be you, just a better you. Someone who is happy that Winterhold is doing better. A new start for you career. You will be a different person. You won't be judged for your sins. Hell, people have already forgotten about you, and we will present them a new career. Now, I can give you back your work that I was doing for 2 years. You finally can become a better person. Isn't this the dream, career? To the warm, genuine smile on John's face, career wished to die where he sits. He is just going to get erased and rewritten. Even the evilest among people would know that this is no different than execution, but John had it in a better way. The only reason he had to use this method was that he can't fully use the full version of it. What that means is that the Thursdayum he is going to use is not fully learned by him, and he only knows one word of the 3, so he needs to use other external helping factors. And now, the shout he was going to use was on the tip of his tongue. A mighty and powerful shout that was used to enslave mighty beasts. He only learned one word after a great effort, and the effect he wanted needed 2 words, thus the enchanted circlet became necessary. This shout was Bindwill, Vilhadav, Earth, Mind, Dragon. Note that the dragon words not written in capital are not shouted. John could only shout GOL without ha or dav. PayPal, 50SS equals $1. PayPal, me/Eldokmezi. Patreon, remove the dash. Patreon.com/Eldokmezi. Discord, GG/GKCKVA7. Chapter 317, Jade Skin. Extra Chapter. Every, plus $10, Patron or PayPal. Extra Chapter, 5,000 votes. Extra Chapter, 8,000 votes. How terrifying it is to change a man's heart. The answer is very terrifying. Then how terrifying it is to not only change his heart, but also his mind, personality, and very core. Erasing him and putting something different in its stead? Making him a completely different person while that ended result is fully aware and conscious about it. This is also very terrifying. But what is more terrifying is that man thanking you for transforming his life to something better while you are aware of the cruel process you just put him through. It is like reprogramming a person's mind completely. No room for going back or reverting to old habits, changing his heart way beyond anything achievable. It made me shiver in fear. I know I was acting high and mighty, but seeing something, feeling it and understanding what it is are completely different stories from just planning for it and getting ready mentally. I just created a new human in the place of another human, and it became very grateful to me. I removed all the hatred towards magic and changed it into admiration and wonder, all the evil into a goodwill, all the hate into guilt, and all treachery into loyalty. The man that walked in was not the man that walked out. This was a power mortals shouldn't possess and I shouldn't abuse, yet it will become a full ability I can use freely one day. How terrifying. It took me quite a while to put my head in peace with it and erase all the evidence of my actions. Now Jarl Career is a new man who will serve Winterhold as a proper Jarl, and I will keep my eye on him for the coming few days. Why are you so worried? A voice asked me. I looked back to Alina and sighed. Nothing, just worries of work. You are normally not worried of anything. Normally, I am just scared of what might I become. You, John Dare? Heh, it is just, things used to be simple. I am good, evildoers are bad, there are lines one shouldn't cross. I knew I would cross them someday, but it is just that they are really scary. Once you cross these lines, realize what you are capable of, and see the outcome of your actions, it all feels unsettling. Alina raised her brows and looked around. She checked that there is no one around us in my office and removed her firekeeper mask. I see that you are troubled, darling. Come here. She pulled my head and took me in a hug. You are not a bad person. Maybe a little villain, but you are not evil. Yeah. Her logic was a bit confusing. She let me go and looked at me. You are literally the guy who came from another world and will slay dragons in the future. I mean, you shouldn't be scared, just that you got more powerful. Hey, don't use my excuses against me. Hee hee. She laughed sweetly and looked at me again. Both you and I know that there are not just excuses. You said it yourself. The first requirement in cultivating the essence energy is to have a strong heart. You are John Dare. How can you be scared? I felt like her words hit the spot, and I smiled wryly. There were many things in this world that I am ready for, or I thought I was until I experienced it. The feeling was strange, and it kept getting stranger for some reason. John. I was not sure what this feeling is, but Winterhold was rather bright today. John. Oh, sorry. Yes. You are getting red? Alina said something strange. Excuse me? You are becoming red? Like, look at your skin for kind's sake. I looked at my palm and, why am I red? Alina touched me, but she retreated her hand right away. Hot. Thanks. No, you are hot. Clearly, I mean your temperature. Aha. I am hot indeed. I stood up from my chair and opened the window for some fresh cold air to come in, but I didn't get any cooler. Alina, I think my magicka is causing this. It is not moving properly and I can't use it right. I am about to break through the ironbone stage. I understood what was happening in an instant. As Alina said, meditation is about the heart. Once my heart calmed down, I was in a proper condition for a breakthrough and my magicka started acting up on its own. What should we do? She asked in worry. Teleport me somewhere with a lot of snow? Yes. She held my hand and cast a spell. The view around me changed and I could tell that we are in the snowfield southeast to Winterhold. I sat down right away and started to meditate in the snow. I could feel Alina sensing my temperature every now and then while piling ice around me. Her action seemed organized and calculated to not disturb my meditation. The feeling of a breakthrough was getting nearer and nearer, but still taking forever. This was all because of the excessively strong blessing that dear Uncle Shio bestowed on me. Blessing of the Mad Champion was basically similar to the Redguard racial power, Adrenaline Rush, and the Argonian racial power, His Skin, just similar to the blessing of the Allmaker, Root of Power, that is similar to the Altmare racial power, Highborn. I estimated that a major breakthrough was near after I got that blessing, and it is happening right now. Not sure how much time passed. My temperature was really rising and I felt that the dragon frame realm, characteristic of refining the body, was functioning to its best. The target of refining this time was my skin and muscles. The snow around me started melting and getting piled by Alina until I felt I was there. The heat on my skin started to become unbearable and my clothes started to burn, but finally, it all came down. I was about to wrap it up and open my eyes, but I felt that there were still more energies trapped in my core that could be converted to essence energy, and I kept going further. My body heated once again, but it was not like major breakthrough, and the heat died down quickly. After some time it happened one more time, and the heat died down once again. I have advanced 3 levels in the new stage. It was then when my rapid growth and strength died down and my meditation returned to its normal speed. Wow! I opened my eyes and felt very amazing. In front of me was a fairy in a red dress, meditating in the middle of the snow while floating in the air. Show off. Alina always liked to meditate while floating. She says that being touched by anything hinders her consecration. I was about to stand up and check my body, but I saw Joel not far from us, also sitting in meditation with an orb golden energy being formed between her hands. Another show-off? Joel prefers to concentrate the essence energy outside her body before absorbing it. Her movements are neat and artistic in my opinion. Each one of us has his own method of walking the way, and can be said that our unique method of special meditation is our signature, and no one in the world understands it better than us. Normal mages also meditate to increase their magicka, but it is no way near effective like our method. Maybe the mysterious masters in the Sijic order can be the only ones that can surprise me with a unique meditation technique that has something to do with the spiritual essence energy, but I highly doubt it. If they have a method of walking the way like I do, Mana Marco wouldn't have chosen to become a necromancer for the sake of immortality. You are up? A voice called for me. Yes, Alina. You too, it seems. Any good news? I said. Yes, a breakthrough. I am now at level 6, Iron Bone stage. She said while smiling. Good job. Congratulations. You too, what is your level by now? Level 3 in the new stage. Didn't name it yet. Hee hee, what are the characteristics? See for yourself? I said and undid my shirt, showing her my skin and muscles. Alina put her hands on me and felt my body carefully. Her brows twitched and she started to touch me in every place. Tisk. She then clicked her tongue. Oi, what's with that? John, no, you are good. You are way too good. You managed to make me of all people feel envious. What do you mean? Look at your skin. She said and glared at me as if she will tear a hole through me. It became stronger and smoother. Even your feature became more handsome than before. That skin is making me sick with jealousy. It indeed was the case, but was it that good? I don't feel any difference. She took out a small dagger and tried to cut my palm, but the dagger did nothing. Your skin is smooth and hard as jade. How can you think girls won't be jealous? Humph. She said. Fine. Be train as hard as you can to reach my level. At least you know what to expect now. I said and patted her head. Yeah, just called it the Jade Skin stage and be done with it. Yes, my lady. I will do as you wish. Still, I think her skin is way smoother than mine. I mean, she is Alina after all. So how long passed since I started training? 3 days. Good. This rapid progress I had lately requires a lot of stabilization. And what did I miss during the past days? Joel said that the small tournament in the casino is over. The teams heading to the High Kings tournament are decided. The junior tokens that we had this year are 5, 1 for our company, 1 for the college, 3 for local teams. As for the senior tokens, then we got only 2. One is decided for a local team, and the other one is with us. I decided to give it to our best warriors in the Dare security, if they're interested. Good call. How is Jarl career? He is doing fine. He is really, as you said, a new man. He started to work on the paper you readied for him, and a new guard captain was appointed from our ranks. The recruitment for guards was issued, and the Dare security will hand over the places that aren't part of our company. Some people were a bit hostile towards the Jarl, but the air around him and his attitude are starting to gain him some popularity among the new locals. Good. This is really good news. I can now cut my workload by half, but still, I will keep him monitored by Team Zero. I may have changed his heart, but not his soul. Jelliner said she that too. She has already put people around him from Team Zero as a security detail. They will keep you updated. Having 1/9 of Skyrim at our pocket, I said, mocking. And doing a goddamn good job keeping it running, Alina assured me. Thanks, I said, and remembered something important. Hey, Jarl Career and I discussed something once I was done with him and reached an agreement. We prepared something for you. For me. Yes, let's go see him. I walked Alina to the Jarl's longhouse. This thing I had in mind was the last piece in making sure my kingdom remain intact. PayPal, 50 SS equals $1. PayPal, me/Eldokmezi. Pat Rayon, remove the dash. Pat Rayon, com/Eldokmezi. Discord, GG/GKCKVA7. Chapter 318, A Night at the Sea. Extra Chapter, every, plus $10, patron or PayPal. Extra Chapter, 5,000 votes. Extra Chapter, 8,000 votes. The level of his sight was not stable. It felt like he was not walking properly, but it didn't stop him from going after his enemy. He was limping in pain due to his left leg, which made him fall a bit late. Desperation filled his soul as his enemy was going to escape once again, but he didn't let go. He looked at his left leg, which was covered by a dark matter shaped like the leg itself, but it was little lifeless. He knew it wouldn't help him if he didn't use magic, yet he was not able to. The curse was still stronger than him. Curses came out of his mouth as he took out a mace that carried all the dread in the world with it. He looked around himself and found a dying man. A cruel smile formed on his face, and he smashed the man's skull with the mace, devouring the man's very essence. Now he can use magic again. He stretched out his left hand that was also supported by the dark matter like his leg and shot out magic. It was no normal magic. It was blue flames, cold flames of essence draining that would obliterate any foe stood between him and his enemy. Those who dared to do so were incinerated into snow ash, something that only existed in the tales of the Daedric Titans. With it, he cut through the hordes of foes and claimed their essence to enforce his power. Finally, he was there in front of his enemy, the one that made him suffer like nothing else in the world. I won't kill you. I will kill them and make you watch, then I will kill you with them. The words that came from his mouth were of absolute hatred. He regards no sacred or holy no more. He wants revenge. Please. I didn't. His enemy's wails were nothing to his ears. He only turned around and called, "Come." A figure clad in black robe and hood came while pulling a man in rags by a rope to his neck. He took the rope from man and threw the man in rags beside his enemy. With another spell, blue flaming beings appeared from the void and obliterated everyone around him while making his two prisoners watch. He then opened his hand towards the man in black, and the latter gave him a dagger. With frenzied movements, the dagger descended on the two men on the ground, turning them into shreds of flesh and made them scream with absolute agony. It was a scene from hell. A cold, frozen blue hell then turned all the enemies into shreds and fine powder of snow, as in with their agony and screams lingering in echoes. The revenge was exacted, and the deed was done. The blue flames died down, and nothing was left except for him and the man in black robes. You have done well. The Lord is pleased. The man in black spoke. But he is not done with you yet. You are to serve another purpose very soon. He was shocked to hear those words, and looked at the man in black behind him only to find him gone. In this place filled with nothing but snow ash, an aura of light appeared in front of him, and it was very familiar. It can't be. He couldn't believe it, and he knelt down crying. All his rage and sadness were for nothing. He was just another fool in the end. Just as he tried to walk to the light and embrace it, the space around him turned cold and murderous. He looked up only to see the blue sky turning red like blood, and an ugly being coming of a black hole. It stretched its wings and flew in the sky, while looking down at him with its cruel face. The being aimed out its right arm, and strong suction force manifested. He was pulled from the ground by his neck to the hand of that being. You are coming with me. No. Oh. John woke up in the middle of the night with energy bursting from his body. He was glaring at the darkness of the cabin with his aura exploding from his body. He looked around to realize that nothing was around him other than the girl that looked at him with worry. You are okay, John? Jellinar asked him while touching his body. His temperature was high and his energy was in a mess, which is quite the opposite of his norm. I am okay. Okay, just a nightmare. While his body was drenched in sweat, his mouth and throat were dry. He was breathing heavily and couldn't seem to be calm. I'm off for some air. John walked out of the bed, and he wasn't really in a good mood after waking up like that. He took his robe and walked out of the cabin to the deck of the ship. He was on one of the Dare Dragon Fleet ships heading to Solitude. The ship sailed through the sea of ghosts, and sailors could barely see anything in the mists of night. Some of the men greeted John as boss when he walked across them, and he only nodded back. He was still annoyed. Once he reached the rear deck of the ship, he rested his arms on the railing and kept looking at the water. He was waking up lately with nightmares, but tonight was the worst. What made him more annoyed was how he could remember nothing of those nightmares after he wakes up. He gave out a long sigh and took a deep breath before using telekinesis to pull up some seawater and splash his face with it. Now that he is wide awake, he should do something useful or meditate. Still troubled? Joel called for him. He looked back and saw her walking out in a robe, and covering herself was a bed sheet. No, I am good, he said and gestured for her to come closer. She walked beside him and was taken in his embrace. Want to talk about it? I don't remember it to talk about it. Then don't worry about it. I can sing for you if you want, she said and came closer to him. Another song about people you killed? What? No, I stopped writing those long time ago. It is a song about you. I called it My Light. Jellinger seemed a bit offended. John smiled and kissed her cheek. You are my light too. Racist. You realize that you were saying that to a dark elf. John laughed and looked at her mismatched colored eyes and pulled her closer, not wanting to let go. Those who see us right now won't recognize us from 2 years ago. You literally were beating me to keep me in check. She remembered the early days of her and John. Well, someone had to beat it out of you. Oh, thank you then. Turns out you were just another psycho that day. The two laughed as they remembered the old days. Wolfer left for Orsinium, right? She asked. Yes. 2 days before us, didn't we see him off? I wasn't there. I was running an errand for Master Nerelian. I like the old man, John said. At least he saw us off when Alina didn't, right? She was glaring at me all day before we leave, Jellinger said. Why? You took me with you and not her, the first lady of House Dare. She had to stay and deal with things. She knows the company as good as I do, and no one can oppose her word in Winterhold. She is the only daughter of the patriarch of the most powerful clan in the Hold, and the future wife of the richest man in the Hold. She is basically the queen of Winterhold. What Alina cares about is being the queen of you. Winterhold just came along with the package, Joel said. John couldn't help but laugh. You don't believe me? That girl gets really jealous, you know? She accepted me only as your second wife and barely accepted Ela to stop you from going to the bathhouse. She would have killed Alishka if she wasn't someone important in the company, Jellinger said with full seriousness. John only smiled and nodded. Women are scary creatures, John. Put the world at a side of the scale and the men we care about at the other, and you would see the world burn every time. I know. In your case, things tend to be a little complicated, but we know that it is hard to contain you with just the two of us. Now we are 3. Just don't go as far as 4, okay? Alina and I may actually lose it and start thinning the number. John sighed and didn't reply. He wasn't sure how to answer that anyway. On one hand, he wasn't sure of his active sex drive, and on the other, he wasn't sure if there is another girl powerful enough to withstand him outside his circle. Maybe a female giant will work as the 4th. You know that thing about giant's milk, right? People get to call you Giantsbane if you drink it, John said. I am not asking how you know that, and I clearly don't want to know more details about it. The two kept talking from subject to subject and from joke to the other. Right, speaking of giants, wasn't Lady Scotty dealing with the giant problem we are having lately? Joel asked. Yes, that idiot Scald the Elder drove off the giants from around Dawnstar right to Winterhold just because he doesn't like me. He even ignored every fact that he is endangering the road of the Talos worshipper refugees and breaking Empire law of overhunting endangered species. John became infuriated. I doubt he even gets what the terms mean. But look at the bright side. We now have giants in Winterhold and mammoths. You love those. Yes, but there is a dark side and the bright side. We don't know where to put them. There is no food west to Neo-Sarthal, and except at the beach if the giants decided to hunt the Horkers. If the Horkers are gone, then the fishes are going to increase. If fishes increase, then another sea monsters from the depth of the Sea of Ghosts are going to show up around our beaches. The ecosystem is getting fucked up. Man, I am not an expert in this, but do you bunch of rulers have to worry about the wolves and fishes in your holds too? I am not sure about others, but I do. I am sure Lady Scotty and Alina will manage. Let's hope so. Ring, 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 ring. Sea monsters. Sea monsters. Some of the sailors on the lookout started shouting. See. John looked in Jellinger as his bad feeling about the ecosystem was on mark. The two of them ran towards the direction of the caller and saw something crawling in water. By the 9, is that a sea ghost? One sailor shouted. Nah, ya idiot. It's a sea serpent. Ready your spears. Oi, it's boss. A veteran sailor replied and recognized John. I'll take care of it. John jumped off the ship and landed on the surface of the water. He was using the water walking spell and walked on the sea leisurely. Just a few meters away from him, a large sea snake was crawling on water. Its sheer size made the sailors on the ship shiver in fear. The ship was called the Hasty Bee, a new cruiser ship made to be very fast and move on 3 engines. It was still a battleship, but was the least equipped in the cruiser grade. John gazed at the sea serpent in and saw its mighty body. The thing's head was at least as big as a dragon's head that he remembered from the game, but its aura wasn't even anything compared to Parthernak's. Size wasn't everything after all. This serpent wasn't even as strong as an elder mammoth. Still, its length exceeded 30 meters. John cracked his fingers and smiled. If I don't remember masturbating in the sea, how did a fucker like you come to be? John's sexy imagination, not dirty mind, seemed to have successfully taunted the sea serpent, and it fixed its direction towards John. With a few twists of its body, its swim speed increased by many folds, and it bounced over at John, opening its mouth wide, wanting to swallow him in one go. John's aura was focused on his body and eyes. He saw the scene in slow motion as the serpent opened its jaw and twisted its head while bouncing forward. A mocking smile appeared on John, and a feeling of superiority filled his heart. He was angered that a weakling like that snake dared to act haughty in front of him. Weakling? Why do I think of a being I met for the first time as a weakling? John was confused of the strange logic that popped in his head, but he leisurely swung his fist, reinforced by his tyrant aura, and carrying his iconic Thunder Cookie spell. The hit landed on the side of the top jaw of the serpent, and an unbelievable scene unfolded. The serpent was tossed away like a toy with its large body and magnificent appearance. John looked at his fist and realized that he hasn't fought in a long time. Not even when El Diablo was captured. He mostly left it for Isha because it was her labor. He also only used magic in his visit to the Shivering Isles. Basically, since he was at level 3, Ironbone stage, Dragon Frame Realm. Damn, is this a bad thing or a good thing? John looked behind him and saw Jelliner on the ship with his eyes open wide along with other sailors. You want some sushi for a late-night snack, honey? Jelliner smiled wryly and nodded. Yes, darling. Just don't mash the meat too hard. Yep, on it. The human/dark elf couple were the only ones insane enough to make heads and tail in this situation. This was the last bit of fun they had before they arrive at Solitude in the next day. PayPal, 50 SS equals $1. PayPal, me/Eldokmeezy. Pat Rayon, remove the dash. Pat Rayon, com/Eldokmeezy. Discord, GG/GKCKVA7. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Chapter 319, The Assembly 1. Extra Chapter, Every, plus $10, Patron or PayPal. Extra Chapter, 5,000 votes. Extra Chapter, 8,000 votes. The Blue Palace, Solitude, 21st of Sun's Dusk, December, 4E197, 12:00 p.m. Jarl Career, Thane John, welcome to the Blue Palace. Thank you, Mr. Falk. You arrived just in time, please, this way. The man who received the diplomats of Winterhold was none other than Falk Firebeard, the steward of High King Torrig of Skyrim. Jarl Career followed by John were led together through the halls of the Blue Palace, and John was looking around. The palace was underwhelming. He thought it would be something classy from inside, but Nords are Nords, royalties or not. No wonder the High Elves always mock the Nordic architecture. What was the least disappointing was the size of the palace. At least it wasn't as the sorry excuse of a palace in the game. So just like many things, it was much larger in reality. At the end of the long walk, the group reached the throne room. As underwhelming as the palace, the throne room was very similar to that of the game, but just in a bigger size and more furniture. Jarl Career, Jarl Idgord. Jarl Idgord Ravencrone of Morthal called for Jarl Career, and seemed to be anticipating to fry him in some verbal combat. John simply didn't bother with them and greeted Jarl Idgord, then excused himself deeper in the throne room. There were a lot of people here. Other than Jarl Idgord and Jarl Career, there was also Jarl Igmund of Markarth, Jarl Balgruuf of Whiterun, and a surprising face, Jarl Sigir of Falkreath. Falkreath had what you can call a coup d'etat. Someone whispered to John behind his ears. John looked around and smiled instantly. Thane Bryling, it is nice to finally meet in person. Thane John, you are just as what I heard, the red-haired large gentleman. Perks of the bloodline? Indeed, even for a far relative to the firemen's like yourself, you took all the good parts. Lucky me. Indeed. I was wondering. Thane Bryling and John got engaged in a conversation about the state of Skyrim and the holds. Falkreath was a hot topic as it had a recent change from the Stormcloak camp to the Imperial camp when its Jarl was changed. Bryling was well aware of the events regarding that, and John got to admit that Bryling was very organized and could see points that no one normally sees, while Bryling was taken aback by John's radical, out-of-the-box ways to solve things. Time passed and finally, the main actor appeared. High King Torrig is here. Bryling pointed while speaking to John, and the two quietened down and returned to their respective areas. Good day. Torrig made a simple dandy greeting, and the people nodded to him in a respectful manner. Unlike most races on Tamriel, Nords don't kneel to kings or emperors, but only to gods. It is a custom and tradition. Kneeling is submission. Everyone sat quietly in their places after Torrig, who sat on his throne. The atmosphere was still chilly between the people around, and opposites started to appear. There was the Imperial envoy who had the right to attend the assembly of the Jarl as a proxy for the Emperor. He was a man called Count Pavoatius. The titles of Cyrodiil granted by the Empire are valid in any part of the Empire, but the titles of Skyrim, like Jarl, which is equal to Count, and Thane, which is equal to Viscount, were not valid outside Skyrim. Jarl is Earl in the Scandinavian languages. Earl is equivalent to Count. As High King Torrig was sitting in the middle, on his right there was Count Pavo, Thane Erikr, Jarl Igmund, and Jarl Sigir, while on the right there were Thane Bryling, Jarl Idgord, Jarl Balgruuf, and Jarl Career. Besides, everyone was his close aides and thanes, and thus John was sitting at the corner. Even though he was chilling the furthest, many eyes have landed on him more than a few times. Thane Erikr was acting cool, but he would glare from time to only meet John's easygoing smile. Thongvar Silverblood, who accompanied Jarl Igmund of Markarth, was also looking at John with interest, and John also nodded at him, knowing that he is a Stormcloak supporter. Count Pavo seemed to be displeased not only from John, but from other many things. The most interesting one in this meeting was Vittoria Vici, one of John's many lovers, and Viarmo, the head of the Bard's College, a person John wanted to have a conversation with. High King Torrig ignored the glare contests that were going everywhere in the room and kicked off the assembly. Thank you all for coming on such short notice. I know this is too early to hold an assembly before the big tourney, but we have some matters we need to address. Who would go first? Allow me, High King. The Imperial envoy stood up. Count Pavo. Torrig nodded. Count Pavo was one brute of a man. He seemed to have served in the Imperial Legion. For him to have the body of a warrior, and his eyes were sharp. His large mustache and medium black hair also gave him the air of diplomats. Honored High King and Jarls of Skyrim, as we are all aware, the Empire is facing many difficulties as of late. We have the Aldmeri Dominion to worry about, but that is not all. The Argonians of Black March, the Khajiit of Elsewhere, and as you know, the Redguards of Hammerfell. These particular provinces have long been left the unity of the Empire for many reasons. The Khajiit are with the Aldmeri Dominion. The Argonians re-established the Enzilil government, which has many connections to the Aldmeri Dominion. It is hard to say whether or not the Bretons of High Rock are loyal to the Empire or not, but we are safe to say that both the Bretons and the Redguards share a grim history with the Dominion. That leaves Morrowind and Skyrim. Morrowind is an enemy of an ally to the Dominion, but Morrowind is not that friendly to the Empire. And finally, Skyrim, as most of you are already aware, it is getting divided. The room didn't get as noisy as the Imperial envoy expected, and surprisingly, the Nords were quiet. 23 years ago, the Great War ended by the White Gold Concordant, a treaty that put an end to the grim fights, and most of us were there. The treaty indeed put some harsh terms on the Empire, but its main purpose was to cause discord. Right now, Hammerfell is no part of the Empire because of the term that forces the Empire to hand half of Hammerfell to the Aldmeri Dominion, and Skyrim is angry because of the ban of Talos worship. It is all causing us troubles, especially the other terms that put many restrictions on the empire and economy and trading. The imperial envoy was trying his best to get to the Nords around him. Skyrim is more than just a valuable ally to the empire. It is the only access for the Imperial Legion to and from High Rock now that Hammerfell is out of the picture. If by any chance Skyrim is not a part of the empire, then High Rock is not. The empire will be all alone against Dalinar, Somerset Isles, Valenwood, and elsewhere. Count Pavo made a grim face. The empire is strong and our war machine is way beyond the imagination and the estimation of any force on Tamriel. The Aldmeri Dominion may think that it had the upper hand in the Great War, but they are still wounded and weakened. High Elves and Wood Elves are not as reproductive as humans, and they lost many numbers, while we during the span of those 23 years have re-established the Imperial Legion far better and much fiercer than that of the Great War. Skyrim also didn't suffer that much, and it kept a large portion of its power that grew in the span of the 23 years. The Aldmeri Dominion knew that would happen, and the sole reason for the Concordant was to cause these massive human forces to collide with each other. The Imperial Envoy talked systematically and got engrossed in his topics. Right now, in this assembly of the Jarls of Skyrim, 3 particular names are missing: Jarl Skald the Elder, Jarl Layla Lawgiver, and Jarl Ulfric Stormcloak. I say, the Aldmeri Dominion has indeed managed to cause discord by a few terms on a paper. The Empire wishes that the Jarls, Thanes, heads of the clans, and the war chiefs of Skyrim to stand by its side like they always did since the days of the First Empire of St. Alessia, the Second Empire of Romance Rendezvous, and the Third Empire of Tiber Septim. Let the Fourth Empire of Titus Mede lead the forces of humanity like its predecessors always did and enforce the supremacy of mankind for our sakes and the sakes of the generations yet to come. Thank you. The Imperial Envoy Count Pavo Arius finished his talk, and the people were still quiet. He surely felt something was wrong for the Jarls to keep quiet all that time, but he remained as expressionless and aloof as he entered. Outside the circle of the gathering, the Imperial Legion officers that attended the meeting and the other envoys that John was familiar with were all carrying expressions of pride for the words of Count Pavo. Only the Jarls and the Thanes were still solemn. Thanks, Count Pavo. Who else wants to voice their opinion? Jarl Idgord, you are the one who called early for this meeting. Do you want to say anything? High King Torg asked.
Yes.
Jarl Idgord said as she put a hand on her cane and stood up. A few days ago, I saw a dream of flames coming at Mordhau. I've seen that dream many times, I tell you, and I can't unsee it anymore. The flames come from the east, the south, and the west. They eat the land, everything green. Now that means something, she said and clicked with her cane on the ground. Most of the Jarls covered their faces with their palms thinking, did she call us here to tell us about her dreams again? John was amused by Jarl Idgord and decided to listen to the end. Now that all of you know, Ulfric has been sending his people over here and there, and that brat Skald is the worst. He doesn't want to stop sending people and zealots to make sermons about Talos and the Empire all around my hold. He thinks he can force my hand by changing the people's hearts? Humph, ignorant buffoons. They speak of Ulfric as if he is the second coming of Talos or something. Now let me tell you this. Who caused all this mess to begin with? Huh? It was Ulfric. He is the main reason why those elves are coming and going as they wish. Jarligmund, we just spoke of that. When the Reachmen took over Markarth, it was Ulfric who acted up on his own and came all the way from Eastmarch to the Reach and took Markarth from the Reachmen. Not only that, he also took Markarth for himself and sealed it off, telling the Empire that he won't hand it over unless they return the worship of Talos. Before that, even with the White Gold Concordat, we were worshipping Talos very openly, and we didn't even bother with the Empire or the Thalmor and all that. It started with Ulfric and his obsessions. Now the fire will come to us all if we do not deal with it early. What do you suggest, Jarl Idgord? High King Torg asked. Stop this before it starts. Tell Ulfric to come and talk to us. She said. Absurd. Erikr seemed bothered by the suggestion. He won't do so. He already started hoarding his troops and gathering allies. Count Pavo said. No blood was shed so far. We are still at the point of the return. Jarl Idgord pleaded. My king, Thane Bryling stood in support for Jarl Idgord. From the looks of it, Winterhold and Whiterun were also in favor of, with the suggestion John and Jarl Balgruuf were also looking at the High King the same way Bryling was. Igmund, what is your opinion? High King Torrig turned to his friend Jarl Igmund of Markarth. Jarl Ulfric has a temper that is hard to contain. You all know what happened when the Reachmen attacked Markarth. At that time, Jarl Ulfric came to our rescue when I was just a young boy. He avenged my father and rescued my throne, but he had another plan in mind all along. Jarl Ulfric will do anything to achieve his purpose, and that includes many complicated things hidden beneath his words of Skyrim for the Nords and return of Talos worship. He thinks he fights for a higher purpose and to keep all that the Nords achieved so far. He was disappointed by the Empire many times, and he gathered many Nords around him. Things will be difficult if you want to talk to him. I say, give it a try, but don't expect it to work. Torrig nodded, and then looked at the newly appointed Jarl Siggeir. The latter stood and spoke. I say there is no point. Ulfric is one man with some brigands around him. He won't do much harm. Sit back, fool. Jarl Idgord lashed at him right away. Jarl Siggeir was taken aback by the sudden glare that went through him. Not only that, Jarl Balgruuf was clearly looking down at him. Jarl Career wasn't paying attention to him, and John was simply having a mocking smile hidden behind the hand that his chin was resting on. Jarl Siggeir was not an experienced politician by any means. He was appointed in the place of his uncle, who was a supporter of Ulfric Stormcloak for the sake of making Falkreath under the control of the Empire. Falkreath may seem like a hold with a lot of forests and ruins, but its strategic value is invaluable as it was connected to both the Empire and Hammerfell, where both the Imperial Legion and the Redguard mercenaries should come from. Jarl Idgord didn't like how Siggeir underestimated Ulfric. He was way too young and too inexperienced to say such a thing about the Bear of Markarth. But there was someone much younger than him in this meeting. It was John Dare. Jarl Idgord stood up once again. Listen, you lot. That noisy skald of Dawnstar is not going to stop harassing my hold anytime soon. The Pale and Jalmarch are not the friendliest holds, and Skald is making things worse. Ask Winterhold. All eyes landed on Jarl Career and John. Winterhold was a very hot topic, and everyone wanted to taste how salty can the blood of John Dare is. Jarl Career, what exactly does Jarl Skald do, and what do you suggest to deal with it? Torrig asked. Jarl Career stood up and looked around carefully. He was wearing an expensive suit with a fur cloak and armored garment like the style of Winterhold, and on his head, there was a light decorated open helm, the Helm of Winterhold. Winterhold has kept friendly relationships with all holds and Jarls. Jarl Skald is indeed motivated to the cause of Talos worship and all that. He may have some disagreements regarding the methods of Winterhold, which in fact avoids all sorts of making problems with either the cult of Talos, the Imperial cult, or the Old Nordic cult. Thanks to Thane John's dedicated work, we do not have problems whatsoever. But Jarl Skald has started to make harassments on the borders of the hold. We indeed need to address that, and Thane John, as well as the esteemed mages of the college, were all working on it for quite a while now. Most of the people present were listening to Jarl Career and tried to listen again and again. His tone was different. He was the man they know in every aspect, but he was more cheerful. Jarl Career even said esteemed mages. The word mages followed the word esteemed, and both were said by a man called Career, who serves as the Jarl of a hold called Winterhold. Not sure if they were short on brain circuits, but that was the very detention of odd. Some hidden smiles formed on some faces. Many were waiting for that moment. Good. High King Torrig nodded. Thane John Dare, it is nice to see you in person one more time. Thank you, my king. John stood up and spoke. He was indeed far taller than anyone, which gave people an intimidating air. Jarl Career said you are well aware of the issues caused by Jarl Skald. Mind to fill us in about your opinion in these matters? Torrig asked. John smiled and nodded. Gladly. But this will take a while, John said and clapped his hand twice. A large light screen appeared beside him, and he fixed it in front of the lute. Images appeared and a video started to play. Let's start from the beginning. PayPal, 50 SS equals $1. PayPal, Me/Eldokmezi. Patreon, remove the dash. Patreon.com/Eldokmezi. Discord. GG/GKCKVA7. Chapter 320, The Assembly 2. This is an extra of 5,000 votes. Be sure to leave comments, you wankers, and Ramadan Kareem. Happy Ramadan. A light screen appeared in the middle of the throne room of the Blue Palace. John stood by it and looked at the people around him. As expected, undeveloped monkeys. He pointed to the screen and series of images appeared. This is Winterhold. A map appeared on the light screen. This is the Pale, and this is Jalmarch. The map expanded and some animated scenes started to appear. During the last month, Jarl Skald sent his cavalrymen to harass the giants all around the Pale, driving them to migrate east towards Winterhold. We are not aware of the situation around in Jalmarch, but I think some giants surely appeared there. The western part of Winterhold is a well-monitored area that a lot of refugees come through, and there are many rescue outposts stationed around. As the giants were forced to leave their natural habitat, they mostly feel agitated and unsafe, causing their normal calm, easygoing nature to turn aggressive. We even witness giants fighting over territory, and let me tell you this, you don't want to be between giants witnessing each other. See that poor guy? I don't know how on Nirn this happened, but once he took a giant club and was sent to Sovngarde, like literally sent up there to heaven. No one saw him landing. The light screen showed footage of a guard getting hit by a giant's club and getting sent way up the sky. At first, the people present saw the light screen and felt that it is not appropriate to make a magic show in front of the High King. Turns out the magic show was a form of a presentation. Then pictures showed up and everyone got interested in the magical device. The footage and sounds came from it, and it was the last straw for them. They were totally focusing on the screen until they saw a giant sending a man to the sky and got cold sweat. That thing that John showed them was a famous bug from the game called Skyrim Space Project. John himself never thought that he would show something like that to the High King of all people. All in all, we are having serious problems with giants sending people to the sky. The world is going crazy. What else? Horses walking up walls of mountains? Well, we found a solution for the giants by contacting the druids from the Cult of Kine and calling them over to talk some sense into the giants, as well as preparing places for them to settle. Winterhold is not really suited for that new kind of wildlife, but we hope it brings changes for the better. Regarding the zealots being sent by the Cult of Talos, the populace in Winterhold and Neosarthal is Nordic, but have been mixed really well with the other races such as Dark Elves, Wood Elves, Bretons, and Imperials. Believe it or not, we have some High Elves too, and their backgrounds are clean and closely monitored. The zealots are mostly not that welcome in taverns or public establishments, but we keep them monitored and in check with a simple agreement to not go as far as to cause riots and problems. Punishments are severe for the troublemakers, so everything is going according to the system. We will be happy to lend a hand to Jalmarch if they ever needed to adopt our methods. John finished his presentation that included a lot of footages, diagrams, numbers, and lots of videos. He finished, took the light screen back to the cube with a single clap, and returned to his seat. That was. Falk Firebeard spoke out of line, then took out a paper and quill. Very enlightening. He started to copy what all he noted. Some Imperial assistants also started copying what they saw and had some heated low conversations while glancing at John. John's plan was going smoothly. He had a lot in mind, and this assembly was a great place to forge many alliances, as all he was doing as of late was just making enemies. He is the kind who like to hide his power and technology to keep them for himself, but the light screen is not that much of technology to him, even though who would see it for the first time would lose her marbles. Showing off one's hidden cards may be a bad thing, but nations always showcase their strength and ability to solve problems for recognition. Being recognized by other strong individuals has many benefits, and John was after those strong people. By understanding what Winterhold and the Dare Dragon Company are capable of right now, it sure attracted a lot of attention. The High King, for starter, was now fully interested. Count Pavo, the Imperial envoy, was also looking at John as someone he needs to reassess. Thongvar Silverblood started to feel agitated with the new player that seemed to not be favoring Ulfric. Viarmo, The Bard's college headmaster was also reassessing John. Erikr was now holding a larger grudge at John for stealing the limelight, and Jarl Sigurd of Falkreath was glaring at John as someone who was younger than him and didn't get embarrassed the way he got. Thane John Dare, that was amazing. Mind if we talk in the first break? High King Torrig said. The who were ready to talk with John as soon as the break starts were all glaring at him thinking, you are playing dirty just because you are the High King and beating us to him? Of course, it would be my honor, my king, John said. Good. Jarl Idgord, I think you can at least do something about the zealots for now. I will try, my king. Good. The next matter we need to attend to will be the trades, but that will be left for after the break. Viarmo brought many bards here, so please, entertain yourself, Torrig said, and stood up walking away. The Jarls and the Thanes, as well as the envoys and the people associated with the event, all stood up and headed to the foot tables and the drinks that were prepared for the events. John was always fond of mammoth steak, and there he found himself. I knew I would see you here. A voice called for him. Oh, if it is not Miss Vici, how can I be of help? John turned around to meet Vittoria Vici. You don't miss a chance to steal the limelight, do you? Part of the job, Miss Vici, the face of the Dare Dragon Company, should always be bright and glimmering. Hee. Good. You the type who will survive in a world of business, but there are some things that you are missing. Oh, please enlighten me. You need friends, friends of friends, and friends of friends of friends. Up until now, you managed to hole yourself up in Winterhold and swallow the big hunt all for yourself. Not sure how you managed to take Jarl career in your pocket, but people are already flocking around him trying to hinder you. Don't you think you should keep an eye on that? John and Vittoria turned around to see Thane Erikr talking with Jarl Career. The former was forcing some wine to the latter, who seemed to be trying to get away as soon as possible. Erikr, that clown can kiss my red-haired ass, John said and turned his head away. Vittoria always spilled out the wine she was drinking and her eyes all turned tear. John patted her back and over her a handkerchief. Thank you. You truly are not worried about your golden goose? Why would I? So it is true. The rumor about you, controlling Jarl Career with magic? Excuse me? John feigned ignorance. Of course, there was that rumor from a long time ago, but John was not even bothering with it now. Listen, John, this is serious. Most of the people around here believe in that rumor, especially after what Jarl Career said about the esteemed mages. Problems will soon come after you after this break. Baseless accusations. Simply trying to undermine my efforts of turning Jarl Career against the pirates of the Blood Horkers. Vittoria looked at John with narrowed eyes and sighed. It will be a serious crime if the rumor is true. Unlawful acquisition of power is a serious crime. Even if the High King and some Jarls are fond of you, they won't simply ignore it once it is proved. Humph. John snorted and acted high and mighty. I am glad that you are looking out for a business partner, but as a bed partner, haven't you missed me? Even a little? This is the Blue Palace, John. Don't. I heard the Pelagius wing is empty. What? It is haunted. Don't worry. My uncle has already left the place. What? My uncle. He loved to haunt strange places. Palaces, lakes, mines, mostly mines. He is a white-haired gentleman with a cane and a purple suit. Very lovable if you ask me, but it can be very moody. Stop talking about your damn uncle. We are in the palace, damn it. Meet me at the inn tonight, Vittoria said, and looked around to check if anyone overheard them. The uncle and Pelagius wing were John referring to the Daedric quest of Sheogorath in the game. To access the mind realm of Emperor Pelagius and meet Sheogorath in the game, one must enter the Blue Palace of Solitude and go into the Pelagius wing, which is sealed because it was haunted, and of course the reason was Sheogorath. Hey, let me introduce you to someone, Vittoria said, and led John to another table. John, I introduce you to Uncle Pavo Aetius, a count in the Imperial Court and the ambassador of the Empire in Skyrim. Uncle, this is my friend Thane John Dare, the acting military viscount of Winterhold. A pleasure to meet you, sir. Oh, Thane John, a pleasure indeed. We were just talking about you. John Dare and Pavo Acius shook hands. These are my assistants Soris and Lita. We were just discussing the presentation you did, and we've got to admit, this was something very new to us. Mind quenching our curiosity? Ahaha, I'd be glad. John took out a smaller light screen that was as large as a tablet device and started explaining it to Ambassador Pavo, then used it to explain the businesses of the company to the ambassador of the Empire. Ambassador Pavo was surely a strong character and tried to comprehend John's abilities as fast as he could to make an overall assessment. John didn't mind that, as it was his goal from the start, and agreed to answer the questions with convenient answers to himself. Unlike the Nords, who looked at magic with eyes of caution then looked away from it, the Imperials were a completely different story. They tried their best to comprehend the light screens and the abilities of John. I think for a military viscount such as yourself, you indeed go beyond the normal expectations. On behalf of His Imperial Majesty, I would like you to work with the Empire more in the future. Please consider my invitation. There is so much potential to your work and so much the Empire can do for you. Thank you, Sir Count. John noticed that the Imperials were trying to address him as Military Viscount rather than Thane, which is referring for them, showing that they recognize his value. Thane and Military Viscount are basically the same titles, but one is Nordic and the other is Imperial. The ambassador was surely trying to rope John to the side of the Empire. The benefits following that decision will surely be high, as John's power may extend beyond his area of jurisdiction and become a full Empire nobleman. As the two ended their conversation, John and Vittoria started to look for another place to chat in. What are the chances I talk about my uncle and you introduce me to yours? Haha, very funny. Excuse me, Thane John. Someone interrupted John and Vittoria's chat. It was none other than Falk Firebeard. High King Torrig is ready to meet you in his study, if you please. Steward Falk, I will be honored. If you excuse me, Miss Vici. Thank you, Thane John. Falk Firebeard and John Dare headed away from the throne room to a hallway leading to the inner parts of the palace. As two red-haired gentlemen, they got acquainted really well. Falk Firebeard was always fond of John's methods since his job title became the administrator of the General Affairs Department. He simply can't live without that title anymore. As soon as John and Falk reached a certain door, John was allowed into the study. There, he found a big library and a central table with a few seats around it. There was a Nord gentleman sitting on a chair and checking a few cards with his hand. High King Torrig looked up to John and spoke. So, which deck the creator of Gwent prefers to play with? PayPal, 50 SS equals $1. PayPal, me/Eldokmezi. Pat Rayon, remove the dash. Pat Rayon, com/Eldokmezi. Discord, GG/GKCKVA7. Chapter 321, The Assembly 3. Extra Chapter, Every, plus $10, Patron or PayPal. Extra Chapter, 5,000 votes. Extra Chapter, 8,000 votes. Which deck the creator of Gwent prefers to play with? The king asked. John smiled and walked to a chair. Torrig nodded and John sat down while moving his robe to the side. Skyrim deck? A patriot? Well, I am the High King, so I should represent my nation anyway. Skyrim against Skyrim. What a bad omen. The king sighed. Haha, I can't even disagree. John felt the irony. In the assembly of how to prevent Skyrim from falling to a civil war, this Gwent match is being a Skyrim deck against another. John and Torrig took out their cards and put it against each other. Usually there is a referee, John said. Yes, Falk. My king. Would you mind if you become our referee? It would be my pleasure. Falk took the third chair, and the three gentlemen nodded to each other and handed the decks to Falk to check them. I must say, I was quite surprised by the way you presented the problem Jarl Skald is causing. You have 1/9 of Skyrim well monitored and under your control. Must be quiet the labor. I am just doing what a Thane should do, be the vigilant eye and enforce the Hold's law, as well as making sure that life is fair and people are happy, John said. So you provide them jobs under your business and make sure that no one competes with you in the Hold you serve? Torrig said in a questioning tone. John smiled and replied, "Couldn't have found any better way to take care of those folk. People get greedy when they get power and can't afford an enemy in a wounded hold that is being rebuilt. Gods know how many years will it take for the hold to be back on its feet again. That's why one should be wary of greedy people." "And does the rule include you?" "It includes everyone. My place and my position give me both the freedom and the limits I need." "Ah, I see. Ha ha ha." John's answer was right to Torig's worries. John could read the mood and Torig could read the meaning of words. Just like any other ruler, Torig should be worried if a force grew too much under his domain and it can't be controlled anymore. John answered him as he already understands his worries and gave him the clue of how to keep their relationship healthy. He is content with his position as a Thane, and he took fully what he wants. More than that would be over the limits for the norm, and that what assured Torig. John was not the only person who would spread his influence through an entire hold. Names like Maven Blackbriar, Thonar Silverblood, Alfred Battleborn, Torbjorn Shattershield, Erikr, and Bryling. All these people are the tycoons of Skyrim, and now John Dare is the new tycoon in Winterhold. No one would have bothered with Winterhold, especially for Nords who are not fond with the College of Winterhold, but who would have thought the next rising star was from there? Not only was the hold wounded by the collapse, but it also had low resources and unfriendly nature. John's rise was indeed suspicious. Also, the problem with John was not only his rise, but also how fast he grew and his mysterious origins. If he was supported by an enemy of Skyrim, then it would make a lot of sense, but John was very interesting to those who looked in his history. An orphan adopted by a powerful archwizard for his talent in magic, and all his actions proved to be for the good of Winterhold, and his loyalty to Skyrim was unstained for now. He even showed goodwill by opposing both the Stormcloak faction and the Imperial faction that have already started fighting in shadows, and his stand was bluntly neutral. The Empire couldn't hate him for it, and neither the Stormcloaks. He made it clear that Winterhold is a wounded hold and it is going through a rebuilding phase. Any conflict in the hold would bring it apart, and he clearly wouldn't take that lying down. High King Torig was a supporter of peace, and a rise of a hold like Winterhold meant that people are busy with rebuilding rather than fighting, and that was something he wants for Skyrim. For that, he wanted to make sure that John was 100% in the same direction as him and not planning to join either side in the conflict yet to come. He also wanted to make sure that John won't fall once a true challenge comes up. To tell the truth, we were in discussion lately here in Solitude about the Jarlship of Winterhold. We wanted to move the title to a man more capable than Jarl Career. Our only candidate was you. I see. You either had to stop me or support me, right? We didn't know how to stop you quietly, though. The person we hoped we can use had cut contacts with us. Torig and John were speaking bluntly rather casually. You mean Kralder? I killed him a long time ago. Torig, who was acting cool, couldn't keep up the act, and Falk, who was checking the Gwent cards, froze, and his eyes moved to John. Another hidden presence in the room showed signs of energy that couldn't escape the senses of an energy junkie like John. What? He was spying for Erikr. John said it as it was something really natural. Torig, Falk, and the third presence sighed and shook their heads. John was as brutal as the rumors. Kralder was indeed a spy of Erikr. Before John would come to Winterhold, Kralder was a Nord nobleman whose family fell from glory after the Great Collapse. He was recruited by Erikr to make connections with the College of Winterhold, as Erikr was already aiming for the big fish that everyone ignored. Kralder was to replace Jarl Career in the game if the Imperials ever take control of the Winterhold, and John was aware to all of that. He was also aware that if by any chance Kralder became the Jarl, then Career managed to come back, Kralder will get banished to Solitude and stay in Erikr's home, which all revealed Erikr's plot to John. John threw Kralder in the sea as soon as the latter started spying for Erikr. So you won't become the Jarl? You said you are okay with the limits you have, but Jarl Career is quite the burden, right? Torig asked. He is a breath of fresh air, John replied. Hee hee hee. You two seem to be getting along. Would it be that you have something on him? Why? He is my Jarl. How come I betray the man who employed me? Oh, fine. I won't pursue the subject any longer. Falk, you took your sweet time. How are the cards? I am not sure how to say this. Falk was looking at the cards with a weird face. I knew it. The creator of Gwent must have all the rare hero cards. Torrig said with a disappointed face. Quite the opposite actually. Not that much rare cards, but what? Thanejon is playing with only 20 cards other than the God card. Only 20. That's the minimum. Torrig looked at John thinking he was underestimating him. It is my strategy, John said. But 20 cards means you don't have decoy cards or weather cards or even a horn card. John nodded with a smile. Gwent had many types of cards. All of them were categorized as warrior, thief, and mage as the 3 major star constellations. They were also categorized as god cards, the ones necessary for every player and each carry a blessing. One must have one and only one, no less no more. Hero cards, which are the ones that has both power, ability, and can't be weakened. Normal cards, which are not as protected or powerful but may have one of the various abilities like bond, resurrection, spying, summoning, multi-class, horn, scorching, or can have no ability at all. Weather cards, whose role is to debuff a whole raw of both allies or enemies depending on type, as frost debuffs the warriors, storm with the archers, and rain with the mages. Decoy cards, which are used to take back cards one already played. Horn cards, which are used to buff a whole lane of a single type, and finally the scorch cards, that can kill the strongest card the enemy has. John was playing with only a few hero cards, and the rest were normal cards, with a wide variety of abilities. Mr. Falk, will you please? John urged Falk Firebeard to distribute the cards already. Fine. I just want to tell you, the High King is no ordinary player. He almost robbed Thane Bryling of Ismir Wolfhearth. Hero card, Falk said. Almost. Torrig seemed frustrated. Oh, that's a really good card. John smiled. I am not going to lose though, John said. Suit yourself. I just want to tell you that the High King has twice as cards as you. Oh, how scary. John put his god card on the table, and so did Torrig. Oh, kind card. Torrig smiled. Talos card. John was taken aback by Torrig's choice. It is the best. I know you gave it a good effect on purpose. Hee. John and Torrig received 10 random cards from their decks. Falk then flipped a septim, and it was heads. Torrig was the one to start. I can't believe it. Torrig's face was ashen. The end result was 281 to 89. John's win. John played dumb and went hot on the first round, making a big number very early, which made Torrig decide to forfeit the first round to not waste cards. The second round was the real trap when John used all his resurrection cards and spy cards to bring back more cards and even steal cards from Torrig. Torrig played with 4 hero cards that barely made a score for him, while John used 3 hero cards that insanely buffed the warrior lane, relying on the normal cards that mostly started with the base value around 4, and the highest one, in the end, was 32. John's small amount of cards were utilized to the fullest, bringing back all the cards he played with at the first round, and all the cards in the rest of the deck, while Torrig was stuck to his nose. I think I can't go against the one who created the game after all, Torrig said. I simply recreated the idea and made the cards. The rules are not mine, John said as he took back his cards. I see. This was truly a good game. I was more focused than ever, Torrig said with a smile. John was sighing from inside. Torrig was way too easy compared to Shiagarath. Shiagarath insisted that he would recreate the Shivering Isles deck all by himself and made an unfathomable deck that can truly only be played by mad people. The deck was so funny and infuriating at the same time. Compared to that, Torrig was easy to bully. So, have you thought about it? Torrig asked. Excuse me? The Jarlship of Winterhold. It is yours if you want it. John shook his head. Too many responsibilities. I merely want to adventure and study magic in the coming phase of my life, so I don't think I can run a hold this thoroughly in the future anyway. The company can run itself, and I created its system, so I know how it works, but the Jarlship requires more than just the law of the hold, but also the laws of Skyrim and the Empire rather than the decisions that I don't want to burden my sleep with. Jarl career will do just fine. John declined the offer one last time. Torek sighed and nodded. He talked with John about various things before the latter left the study. Did he pass? Falk asked. He wasn't lying. A voice replied, and a woman appeared in the room. Torek and Falk looked at her naturally as if she was here the whole time. What do you think, Sybil? Torek asked. He is a bit honest about not wanting the Jarlship. He also wasn't lying about anything else. Whoa, not at all? Falk asked. He may look peaceful and well-natured, but he is dangerous, Sybil said. How so? Torek asked. He detected me. Torek and Falk were taken aback. No one can simply detect Sybil. After all, she is a vampire. The High King knew that, and Falk was also well aware. After all, Sybil's role was far too important for the sake of many things in this hold. What do you advise? Torek asked. Sybil thought and sighed. He is a troublemaker, but he is a good friend. He won't betray you first. The firemen's always honored their words, and he seemed like a typical one to me. Also, his origins check came out. Before he was to be admitted to Riften Orphanage, his parents were living outside Skyrim. The trail led us to Morrowind. It seems that they died around 4182 when they were doing some work for the clan. Or so the public story goes. Is that so? There is a lot of mystery around him. I know you wanted to have him as our man, but he is comfortable where he is, and as he said, it will limit his authorities but widen his freedom. He will turn 18 after 2 months. He still has a lot of potential, and we can wait. Let Eriker go wild on him and see how he solves it. Torek and Falk nodded. Fine, let's wait and see. PayPal, 50 SS equals $1. PayPal, me/Eldokmezi. Patreon, remove the dash. Patreon.com/Eldokmezi. Discord, GG/GKCKVA7. Chapter 322, The Assembly, 4. Many thanks to at Slicktrick and at Dark Priest. Also, happy birthday Dark Priest, and I will see to your request. John left the king's study and returned back to the throne room where the assembly would continue in an hour. He looked around and wanted to sit in some quiet place, but a palace guard came to him. Thane John of Winterhold? Yes. A Dumere lady says she is your captain of security detail, is looking for you in the garden of the palace. Oh, Jull is here, fine, thank you. John nodded and looked around the place again until he found someone. Headmaster Viarmo? Oh, if it is not Thane John? Viarmo, the headmaster of the Bard's College and the famous High Elf who is quite popular between the Nords, recognized John right away. Both of them were undoubtedly the tallest two in the meeting. John was a firemane and Viarmo was a High Elf. What vexes High Elves about John is that he is always a tad taller than them. I was hoping we could talk. A mutual friend of ours sent me with regards. John said. A mutual friend between me and Thane John? Must be quiet the character. Oh, by any chance, is it student John Battleborn or student Linley Starsong? No, it is neither John nor Sviti. Why don't we walk to the garden? Well, gladly. Excuse me, gentlemen. John and Viarmo acted with etiquette and walked out the throne room. Both of them were smiling at each other with total ease. Will Thane John participate in the tournament this year? A lot of fans are waiting for you to come and do a good show again. Viarmo said. Really? I would love to entertain, but sadly if I join the tournament, it would be no more than bullying. I already won once and now I won't even struggle. Also, my brothers are busy. John Battleborn is newlywed and spending his honeymoon on vacation while Wulfr is on a trip to Ursinium, some sort of blacksmithing contest. Oh, the annual Forge Tournament of Ursinium. Nords don't get easily invited to that one. So that's its name? Why so? As you know, Nords and Orcs are not the greatest friends throughout history, especially the Orcs of Ursinium. They have a cult of Trinimac that considers the Nordic god Shor or Lorcan a mortal enemy. Oh, I see. I think Wulfr can handle some stingy Orcs. John and Viarmo were both birds of a feather. They knew each other's intentions from the very start, and their forces have collided many times before. How are the things around Skyrim, by the by? John asked. I would have asked Thane John the same question, thinking you would know better than I. Then you? Headmaster Viarmo, please don't overestimate me. Bards go where others cannot, and I am sure words travel better in Halfingar than Winterhold. John said. Really? And here I thought bathhouse wenches would do a way better job than bards. Viarmo said. As I said, you overestimate me, John replied. The two were naturally talking about their spy organizations. They were tossing words at each other because their interests went into a conflict lately. Anyway, the two of them reached the garden outside the palace and saw two women waiting for them. Headmaster Viarmo, let me introduce you to my security captain, Julliner. And this one here is surely our mutual friend. Say hello, Lizette. As John pointed to the other woman, Viarmo narrowed his eyes. It was indeed his agent Lizette, the one he planted in Winterhold a few months ago and was constantly reporting to him. He looked between John and Lizette. How long were you captured? He asked. A few months, Lizette replied. Thane John, you captured a bard of my people. I'd love to say that the Bards College is an official guild that has the right to protect its people in a court of law. We are in one right now, and I implore you to let release my bard. Viarmo said. He offered Lizette a legal way to escape her captors. He looked at John with cold eyes. John brought Lizette to the Blue Palace where he has no shred of power and Viarmo has many friends around the place. He was simply in a better position. Really? Is that how are you going to play it? John understood what he wanted to do and looked at Lizette. Lise, tell him how many times we slept together. 7. How did it feel? Very good. What were the orders you took from Headmaster Viarmo? To find information about Thane John Dare and relay it to Solitude coded in the book I am writing. What are the motives of Headmaster Viarmo? Find out information and sell it. What is his allegiance? No one. Headmaster Viarmo works for the ones who may do good for Skyrim and widen the network of the bards. Fine enough. Viarmo lashed out and stopped John. John nodded, looked at Viarmo with a wide smile. The latter seemed disturbed by John's action, but forced himself to calm down. By the way, Lizette lost the ability to lie. You can ask her anything, and she will answer with complete honesty. John said with a proud look at Lizette. Yeah, truth. Wonderful. Viarmo was still in a sour mood. What can I do for you, Thane John? John smiled got even wider. I am afraid this is the wrong question. The right one is, what can I do for you, Headmaster Viarmo? Viarmo's eyes narrowed as he looked at John and tilted his head a little. I am afraid you will need to be a bit clearer here. Simple. You sent Lizette to me way before I become a man of power or anything. You saw something within me and I am also indebted to you that you took care of my friends who studied at the college. Let bygones be bygones and let's start anew. John said. I am afraid that is not possible. Viarmo said. Lizette is one of my people and now his mind is your hostage. Will you trust anyone like that? Her mind? I am afraid you misunderstood. Lizette is completely free from any hypnosis or illusion or any of that. She has her will intact and she can do whatever she wants. She just can't lie, that's all. How is that even possible? The minds of us mortals have many functions that make the person seek survival. Resisting the idea of jumping off a cliff, resisting consuming harmful stuff, fearing wild beasts, telling truths that may hurt us. All I did was to simply switch off the one function that rules the thing about truths and lies. Lizette's instincts can't lie anymore, of course. I can fix that. Viarmo was silent still. He looked at his student and shuddered from the thought of having her completely toyed by John. He signed up for this mission of information a long time ago knowing the risks, and he was bitten by foes scarier than John, but John was way too ruthless and his methods were all shady and secretive. I am sorry to force you to play by my rules, but that's what we both do, right? We can't win, so we enforce our rules. John said. Viarmo sighed and didn't say anything. My bard, can you please? You don't even need to ask. John smiled and walked behind Lizette. He held her head gently, and sneaked the skeleton key with his other hand. He simple undid the lock he did on her brain. Here you go, Lizette. You are home safe and sound as promised. Before she could reply, Viarmo took her hand and dragged her to his side. Can we talk business now? John asked. Very well. By the way, was that the same thing you did for Jarl career? Manipulating his brain? Viarmo asked. I don't know what you were talking about. John replied with an answer that made him look guilty. Viarmo saw Lizette off and looked at John again. Dealing with you is like walking into the darkness, Thane John. What we don't know is usually what gets us killed. You are right. That's why people make friendships with each other rather than sending spies. John's answer made Viarmo laugh. Huh, friends? Look around you, Thane John. We're all liars here. Why think people like us do what we do? Why did you use your, whatever that was on the girl? It is all the same answer in the end. Everyone is your enemy here, Thane John. Oh, what a miserable fellow you are. I already know so. I just said that you needed to know who I am, and you failed, and I promise you that you will always fail. The things I keep hidden are hidden for a reason, and if they are open to the world, then I don't want to be blamed for the actions I will be forced to make. Now, these actions will sink a lot of people in a shithole, and that includes anyone who is related to me and the whole damn Winterhold. You said you wanted your network to reach in Winterhold? Ask me nicely. Viarmo started thinking before talking. Why are you doing that? He asked. Winterhold is my beautiful poem. Even though I was not born there, I love that place and it is my home. Don't think of it too much. I am a poet too. I want the matters in my hold to flow naturally, and I can't be the hero every day. One day I will die, disappear, or fall into some sort of crisis that I can't survive. I don't want others to see Winterhold as a weak organization without me. With your network inside, I will be sure that the information flow won't get hijacked by someone I can't deal with. The Thieves Guild control the information flow in the streets for now, but they are getting greedy for politics. I want you to fill that place for me and limit their influence. Also, you too will be limited from the streets and from me and my family. The top dog of information in Winterhold is me. Viarmo nodded. The Black Pigeons, you mean? He said. Oh. John tilted his head. It is the name of our Team Zero in the streets. Joel said. Oh, I see. Black pigeons? I'd have preferred cats. Viarmo looked from John to Jellinar. I assume you are the mysterious assistant of Thane John. Mysterious? Me? Jellinar asked. Of course. The dark elf lady that appeared with Thane John in Winterhold 2 years ago. No one knows where you came from or what your origins are. Thane John boarded the ship from Solitude alone and landed on Winterhold with you. I call that mysterious. Viarmo said. Didn't I say not to look after me or my family? John said with cold eyes. Haha, no need to worry about me, Thane John. These are the general information we managed to get. We didn't manage to go further anyway. Please don't. But more importantly, do you find my terms acceptable? Using us to close the gap between your personal information network and the Thieves Guild? I find it very satisfying. John and Viarmo shook hands. From now on, let's have a healthy partnership. My security captain Jellinar, my housecarl Trudvar, and my secretary Siv are the ones your people can contact in Winterhold. My fiancé will take over my position if I wasn't available. Thank you, Thane John. Thank you too, Headmaster Viarmo. John was about to turn, but he paused and looked at Viarmo again. I had 2 requests in mind. Well, I'll see what I can do. How can I help? Viarmo said. The first is regarding the Imperial Legion in Winterhold. The ones in command right now are really a bother. I was wondering if you can introduce me to a better candidate that can serve Winterhold's methods with a strong motive. A legionary with some bad feelings about the Thalmor will do very well. Ah, I see. I have a close friend of mine, a legate in the Legion. He will fit what you want really well, but you need to have an open mind when you deal with him. Fine by me. The second matter I had in mind is Thane Eriker. Huh. You are making him the second matter in your mind while he is making you the first. This will be good. What do you want to know? Not much, just what is he up to now? John and Joel walked into the Blue Palace together once again. Sigh. You are sighing for the next 10 minutes, Joel said. Sorry, I am just a bit disappointed. In that slimy Viarmo? Nope. Viarmo is good. I am talking about Eriker. What is there to talk about? We should kill him and make his mother wear his entrails around her neck. Did you come across Shiagarath lately? More importantly, trying to defame than kill me? Huh. I wish to know how he will do that. Just let me gut him like the stinky fish he is. No need. He can't endanger anyone I love, and we are together. Let's see what he will do. You sure of winning? Love always win, Joel. Once a day and twice on Sunday. That sounds like our sex schedule. It sure does. But do you trust him? Your new friend, Viarmo. Shouldn't we have brought Alina so that she can tell if he lies to us? He is not my friend. He is not my enemy. He is both and not at the same time. I expect him to betray me and work with me. A handshaking and a hand-stabbing. Expect that from Viarmo, and you will know how to handle him. His motives are unclear. I don't know what he wants or what he is or what is he planning to do next. My only advantage on him is that he can't figure out my methods, and I agreed to keep him close and well-monitored. He won't move a muscle in Winterhold without us knowing. I want you to learn how to deal with people like him in the future, Joel. Fine. Jelliner replied with a sweet and mischievous smile. John walked through the door of the throne room, walked in. High King Torrig was not there yet, but his arrival seemed to be announced. Everyone was looking at John and career now. PayPal, 50 SS equals $1. PayPal, me/Eldokmezi. Patreon, remove the dash. Patreon, com/Eldokmezi. Discord, GG/GKCKVA7. Chapter 323, The Assembly, 5. Extra Chapter, Every, plus $10, Patron or PayPal. Extra Chapter, 5,000 votes. Extra Chapter, 8,000 votes. As John took his seat back and High King Torrig returned, the meeting started to review the trade and the economic status. Outside the talk, Viarmo was sitting on the side in the back seats listening. A figure in robes came out of nowhere and sat in the empty seat beside him. Headmaster Viarmo, a barely audible voice talked to him. Lady Sybil. It was none other than Sybil Stentor, the court mage. His Grace is concerned, Headmaster. You seem to be making quite the friendships lately. Viarmo didn't reply and looked between Torrig and Sybil. I am afraid I don't know. What did John dare ask for? Sybil cut his words. Information. About? Eriker. Good, what is there to know? Viarmo turned his head to Sybil, bothered by the fact that she was asking a lot of questions all of a sudden. His action made Falk Firebeard aware that Sybil and Viarmo were talking to each other. He, who was standing close to the High King, snuck skillfully closer to Sybil and Viarmo. Wizard, don't you have other business to attend to? Falk spoke with a hint of hostility towards Sybil. Steward, I am just here attending to my business, Sybil replied with the same amount of hostility at Falk. The two kept looking at each other until Sybil decided to break it down. Fine, if you excuse me. She stood up and went back to where she came from. Seeing her walk off, Viarmo kept thinking, why would that shut-in court mage come out all of a sudden? She is not a usual face around the court, even though her work is very important. Also, Falk was unusually hostile. His Eminence would appreciate it if you keep your tongue held, or you will lose it, Bard. Viarmo sighed and nodded without much to say. In this day in particular, the court was really tense. Sybil wants to investigate something mysterious, John and Eric are going against each other, and Falk looking after every little detail. Everyone was not sure how to expect in this day at all. The old holds, Winterhold, Eastmarch, Rift and Pale, except Winterhold, are having not attending this meeting. The ones attending are not fully supportive of the Empire, as Whiterun and Winterhold are clear about that. Even though Mordhal is taking a similar stance, being close to Solitude is affecting them quite very much. One can think that this assembly is going to conclude the sides of the coming conflict, and everyone will take a role. Unless Ulfric is willing to speak, things won't end well for Skyrim. The tension was high between the upper echelons too. Right now, they were discussing how to distribute the trade routes with the other nations around Skyrim now that Ulfric and his allies are closing their routes. The East Empire Company can mostly go anywhere, including Windhelm and all the Stormcloak territories. The Dare Dragon Company has no land routes because Winterhold was surrounded by the Stormcloak territories, so it only will depend on its fleet. The other holds were in a much better state, but Whiterun was going to have serious problems as it is going to be in the center of a war started, and it was also the center of the trade routes, thus a lot of security was needed, and that is going to shoot up the prices. The wages will go less because every hold will be arming itself to the teeth from now on. Jarl Career and Jon skillfully avoided this problem by using the excuse of rebuilding Winterhold and saying that they are crowded on the populace. In the end, Winterhold has agreed to let in Imperial Legion, and it will take care of them but won't be letting any other outsiders interfere in its business. Jon made a firm stance and declined all the requests of the Imperial ambassador to send in military envoys into the cities itself. The second break was about time, but suddenly a displeased participant voiced his complaints. So after all this, you are going to tell me that Winterhold is not going to participate in anything other than opening its roads? Is that even acceptable? That was Jarl Sigurd of Falkreath. As we said, Winterhold is in a rebuilding phase and it will take years to recover. Jarl Career replied with the same excuse. Are you kidding me? According to what we all know, the population in Winterhold is greater than both Falkreath and Jalmarch. Also, its economy is based on one entity that controls every major resource in the hold. Something is telling me you are not even trying to help, Jarl Career. Sigurd kept pressing further and glared at Jon. Jon kept quiet most of the meeting, but he was staring coldly at Sigurd. Tell me, Jarl Career, Thane Jon, why isn't that company listed in the Imperial Guild of Commerce? How can we be sure that what you said is true if there is no legal document to support your claims that this company is not some rogue organization that is lawlessly taking over Winterhold? Sigurd directed his attack towards Jon. Jon finally decided to speak. My company is a conglomerate that has its unique structure and works by the directions of the Hold Admiration and its supreme authority. Jarl Career has given me a task, and we agreed to make the best of everything we can use. Regarding the Imperial Guild of Commerce, our license is taking a bit of time to be issued, but our friends at the East Empire Company and the other companies are doing their best to hasten the process. Jon said, and looked at Vittoria Vici. She nodded in agreement to all what he said. The Nord businessman and the Imperial businesswoman were pretty much in a total agreement, as everyone could see. What is more concerning is not what the company do, Thane Jon. It is its history, and based on what was it established? A third person joined the fray. Please elaborate, Thane Erikr. Sigurd rhymed with Erikr right away. Yes, please do so. Jon also rhymed with them as he sat with an amused face. I am not sure what you want me to elaborate. The one who has some explaining to do is you, Thane Jon, Erikr said. Do I? Fine. About what exactly? As I said, the origins or your company, how it started, and many other details about your projects and your unordinary methods. I am sure every company in Skyrim, whether on our side or the other, has already shown displeasure about that Dare Dragon Company. Erikr said disdainfully, and no one else stopped him. It was a full Jon against Erikr, and everyone was waiting for the main event. Jon stood from his seat and walked to the center face to face with Erikr. Let's see. I am a fan of the anarcho-capitalism. It is a mix of the sweet capitalism and the anarchy system, even though the latter is obviously hard to apply in this day and age. Capitalism is simply an economic system based on the private ownership of the means of production and their operation for profit. It results for certain businesses to grow large and legally take over most of the other businesses in its habitat. For example, rather than having a few alchemy shops scattered around the hold with wasted efforts and toxic rivalry between them, We simply bring them together under one roof and one name with designated wage system, merit system, and set of laws. Simply putting all these minds and hands together is much better than keeping them scattered in their workshops and foolery. Great ideas support each other, and a week's work gets done in a day. That's how the Dare Pharmacy does things. Wait, you put all the independent craftsmen of Winterhold in one workshop? Ambassador Pavo shot up. Yes, and they work together? Just like that? No master and disciple relationship between them? Yes. How is that even possible? The ambassador asked. Alchemists were simply the most arrogant beings under heaven, even more cranky than most mages. Bringing a few to work together is clearly not possible by normal means. I just said how the company does things. I won't reveal anything regarding my internal affairs or secrets of the trade. Please excuse me, Sir Ambassador. John said. So you force people to work together? Eriker said. I don't know which sick psychology gave you the right to accuse me of such a thing. What did you say? It is what you heard, retard. The atmosphere was chilly around John. He was doing his best to not go wild on someone who was bluntly framing him of something he didn't do. Or maybe he did, but with good intentions at heart. Eriker was feeling that he was slapped publicly. A boy who is not 18 yet, and slandered him in front of the High King with an ever-so-casual tone. John Dare, watch your tongue. Oh, I love threats. What will you do? John's aura was already hard to suppress. An aura of a tyrant is impossible to keep in check if its owner was being slandered. It was as if it had life on its own and wanted to shred Eriker to pieces. Enough, you two. Fox spoke. Thane John, Thane Eriker, this is not the time or the place for your problems. Unless it is a matter of the court and the nation, take it outside. John didn't even look to Eriker and headed back to his seat. He still hasn't answered about the origin of that company. Eriker didn't back down the slightest. A company coming out of nowhere and using unusual activities to rise in the poorest hold to completely control it in the span of 2 years. Not just that, we are all aware of the origins of John Dare, an orphan from the slums of Rift Inn who happened to have the bloodline of one of Skyrim's big clans. Hear this out. His origins is Rift Inn, a territory of the Repels. His bloodline is Firemane, a clan that doesn't follow the Imperial Pantheon and lives in the wilds of Eastmarch, which is a Stormcloak territory. He gained a lot of money from gods, nowhere grew at a speed no one else can achieve by normal means. He never fell into any conflict with the old holds regarding his actions, and his trades can go anywhere in Eastmarch where Jarl Ulfric rules. My theory is that either he is spying for Ulfric, someone who is in deep cahoots with a clan to take over Winterhold, or some sort of Daedric cultist that spreads the influence of a Daedra. Eriker's passionate speech echoed far and wide in the court. His voice was loud, and he looked to everyone in the eyes while pointing the fingers of accusation towards John. Some has already seen some sense in Eriker's words, but what they couldn't fathom was the smile on John's face. His mood was completely the opposite of some time ago. Asterisk clap 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 asterisk bravo. John was openly mocking Eriker. Is that really all you got? Accusing me of working for the old holds. Well, Winterhold is an old hold, the oldest of them all really. The thing between the old hold and the new hold was a really good idea to use. I give you that. It is like the historical classico of Skyrim, East versus West. Well played. Almost fooled me myself. John turned around and stood in the middle once again. I will entertain you, Thane Eriker. Let's see. You said I am helping the Firemane taking over Winterhold. Mr. Thongvar Silverblood, is it against the law by any chance? John directed the question to Thongvar Silverblood, whose clan basically owns every rock in the Reach Hold, including the prison of Sidna Mine, which is their private property. No. The latter replied. Good, that aside. You also suspected me of either being a Daedra cultist or a spy for Ulfric. I am not answering the first because it is dumb and you are dumb too. The latter can be a bit of concern. Fine, I admit it. I like Ulfric Stormcloak. What? Is it new to you? Everyone likes Ulfric. He's a damn war hero. He saved Markarth. He speaks the Thursdayum, and his voice is so deep that you can't help but want to hear him just speak over and over. Everyone knows that. John started walking around with the same smile on his face. His words caused most of the people to have beads of cold sweat all over them. John looked at High King Torrig and spoke. Ulfric Stormcloak is a man from the Age of Heroes. Everyone, tell me, when was the last time we had someone like that? Basically, we didn't. At this day and age, Skyrim has no heroes. The world itself didn't see a hero since, let's see, the hero of Kvatch and St. Martian Septim at the Oblivion Crisis, and Emperor Titus Mede II at the Great War. Ulfric could have been one, but simply he is not because he is a man of short temper who was let down by many. Y'all, Ulfric's cause is just, but his timing couldn't be worse. We all know that. Am I a supporter of Ulfric? No. Will I raise my sword to kill another Nord because the god we both worship was banned by a treaty that we can simply ignore? No. Will I raise a company and rebuild a hold to wage war with it? John looked around and questioned the people. He was already taking the lead of the conversation, and Erikr was having a hard time putting up anything to face John with. Damn, John even said Ulfric is a hero in front of the whole assembly, and no one said anything to stop him. Now, you want to know how I brought money to build my company, right? John stood proudly in front of everyone. You know, I won a tournament 2 years ago and hoarded a lot of money from that one. Oh, I remember. I almost ruined your gambling house that year, crippled the team you were betting on all by myself while sitting on a chair, and hoarded a shit ton lots of money. You hate me for it, right? I took your money and then took over the business with the College of Winterhold, the same business you were trying to establish. Lies. All lies. 2000 Septim wouldn't have made a decent amount for anyone to start a business. Who do you think you were fooling here? Erikr lashed. You want to know my dirty little secret, don't you? Fine. I will tell you all here in this court in front of the High King himself. The truth is always the most boring answer. The truth is, my mama is so rich, she is an archwizard, and she makes a lot of money that she can't even spend in one lifetime. John said and spread his arms around to the public while smiling left and right. Yep, you heard me right. I am my mama's boy, and I make her proud every day since the day she adopted me in. I am her legacy apprentice and her only son. She is an archwizard, and she leads the mysticism department in the college. Sorry to ruin your fantasies about spy conspiracies and Daedric plots, but it's the truth. People were at a loss for words. Someone was simply admitting that he is his mama's boy and boasting around that she is rich, powerful, and gives him all the money he wants. Wasn't this the recipe of disaster that makes arrogant noble kids and corrupted rich boys? Even though these descriptions wouldn't fit with John, whose heroics are publicly known and his power is already so domineering. Was it simple to admit that he took money from his adoptive mother and build a kingdom of business by it? There is no way that this was a simple answer. Hell, all the people around this room are all rich and powerful. If they gave money to their kids at the age of 16 and told them to make something like John with it, it is simply a pure waste of money. And yet, here it is. Someone with an unusual personality and made unusual things. They all look at John and forget his real age. According to the reports, he is not 18 yet. Not yet 18 and in the fanciest room in Skyrim addressing the most powerful people. The realization hit again and again. He is someone who can speak for his own, act for his own, and even turn the poorest hold into the most mysterious one so far. Just who is he? What is he capable of? How did he do it? All these questions and more started to dig deep in the hearts of the attendants, from the Imperial Ambassador to the Jarls and Thanes. The youngest person in this room was John Dare, who's still not 18, and the one right older than him is the 22 years old Vittoria Vici, then all the rest are over 30. The one amused from this show the most was High King Torrig. He was keeping tabs on John for a while, and he knew some of John's capabilities better than anyone in the room. The way John destroyed Erikr was the best thing he saw in court for a long while. That's all I've got, Thane Erikr. Happy now? You made me admit that I am Mama's boy, and she gives me money. Well, at least the money I have a valid source. God knows where others get money from. John switched from defense to offense and threw a rock at Erikr. His word made people think. Eriker is a vicious character, and his money was not the cleanest. It was not proved, but a lot of smuggling and shady businesses were managed by Eriker. Eriker didn't take those words well and glared at John fiercely. That's a lot of nerve you have, boy. Name's John Dare, midget. Thane John for your likes. Don't force my hand. Neither you nor that little Winterhold can withstand. Thane Eriker, choose your next words rather carefully. The one who stood up was Jarl Career. Simply using a hold for intimidation when its Jarl is around is another recipe for disaster. Even Torrig and his aides were about to scold Eriker. His words are enough to make him push Winterhold into the Stormcloak camp. Even John wouldn't bother by then and happily shake hands with Ulfric. Still, Eriker had another chip in hand. He looked at Jarl Career and grinned. You, who in oblivion are you? He said while pointing at Career. John narrowed his eyes, and the people around felt that this was still far from over. John won the first round, but there was that little thing that was still in their minds. Jarl Career. PayPal, 50 SS equals $1. PayPal, me/Eldokmezi. Pat Rayon, remove the dash. Pat Rayon, com/Eldokmezi. Discord. GG/GKCKVA7. Chapter 324, The Assembly, 6, 7. Okay, folks. This is a 5K word chapter. Originally had to be 2 separate chapters, normal and extra by comes to you by at Dark Priest. Still, the events forced me to put them in one. Important. From this point onward, things are getting messy for John. It will be chaos and mayhem. If you didn't drop the novel by the next 10 chapters, you will have a good surprise. Just saying. In freaking joy. Eriker had another chip in hand. He looked at Jarl Career and grinned. You, who in oblivion are you? He said while pointing at Career. John narrowed his eyes, and the people around felt that this was still far from over. John won the first round, but there was that little thing that was still in their minds. Jarl Career. What do you mean? How dare you address a Jarl like that? Jarl Career said. Really now? The grin on Eriker's face grew wider. You are the Jarl Career? The one we know? The one who came every year screaming, kick off the mages, banish the college from Winterhold? They ruin the hold and whatnot? You don't sound like the same to me, Jarl Career. Here, your Thane is a mage. He took money from his mother who is also a mage and made a business on your hold mostly based on magic. You, the same Jarl that no one ever heard a word of for 2 years are, now come with a mage and ever so comfortable speaking about mages as if they are your next of kin. Isn't this suspicious, folks? He looked between John and Career. This was his final card, the sure one. I will admit it, Thane John is a good businessman. But what of Jarl Career? He wouldn't have allowed a mage to start a business in his hold, let alone appoint him a Thane no matter what. The man in front of you looked like Jarl Career, sounds like him, speaks and moves like him. You all made sure of this before the meeting and during the first rest. But did it answer any of the questions we had? No. How could John Dare become the Thane? The answer is simple. Thane John put a spell the mind of Jarl Career. He did something with magic, and we all know it is possible. I looked into that matter, and it all started the day he retrieved that very helm that Jarl Career is wearing. That helm was used by John Dare to manipulate Jarl Career. Many people in Winterhold are aware of the fact, yet no one cared for their own convenience. But this is a court of law. John Dare, release Jarl Career from your spell right here, right now. The unlawful taking over of authority of a part of Skyrim and the Empire is treason punishable by death. Release him at once, and you might live to fight another day. All eyes landed on John waiting for his reaction, but he kept an expressionless face. You scum. You say I got manipulated? I will not accept this. I demand that this man gets arrested for slandering the Jarl of Winterhold. Jarl Career lashed at Eriker. Now, Jarl Career. You will thank me at the end of the day. Eriker spoke haughtily. John Dare, last chance. You can't win this. Your company, money, family, and everything you built so far will go to waste if you don't cooperate. We will give you the benefit of admitting your wrongdoings." John didn't move a muscle, bat an eye, or draw a breath. He was still. "Your Grace, this is too much." Jarl Career directed his talk to Torrig. "Thane Erikr has slandered me, my hold and my loyal Thane for too much." Thane John said that he will take on whatever Thane Erikr throws at him, but this is not acceptable. There are lines, and crossing them will result for consequences. Severe ones. Jarl Career was making a strong stance for John, but sadly no one believed him. The one thing that these people were sure of was that John was really mind-controlling Career. It was the only possible answer for Career's transformation. Torrig stood up from his chair, and everyone else did. "Thane Erikr, that's enough." He suppressed Erikr. Everyone looked at Torrig, thinking that he is going to sacrifice a Jarl for the sake of a Thane. Career was known to be an incompetent Jarl, and John was a business genius. Even Torrig wanted to give the title of the Jarl to John to avoid this conversation. Still, John refused the title. But now is not the time to regret. Many great leaders didn't get the chance to grow to their full potential, and surely what John Dare achieved won't be torn apart. The least punishment he can take was to get his title stripped and his assets confiscated. He may eventually get pardoned, but he is losing this one. The crown will be forced to appoint someone else as the head of the Dare Dragon Company, and everyone knew who coveted this position the most. Still, the crime of unlawful taking over of authority is the most severe one to those who were sitting in this room. Most of them are rulers, and letting such a crime go means it may happen to them one day. It was simply unforgivable. "Your Grace," Jarl Career wanted to say something, but Torrig cut him. "I am not sure of how magic works, and I didn't learn much about the arcane arts. What Thane Erikr said raises a strong point that I can't merely ignore. Forgive me, Jarl Career, Thane John. This matter should be investigated." Jarl Career seemed frustrated, but John was as silent as ever. The two of them were going to be investigated and questioned, and surely they didn't like it. Erikr was all smiles as he turned to his aide Mellerin, nodding for him. The latter stepped forward towards Jarl Career. John saw that, and his poker face turned to a frown. He didn't want this curse of events to take this turn. "Back off, elf. This is not the day I get judged by a Thalmor cucksucker." John spoke with his aura, finally getting out of control. The red battle spirit of the tyrant was getting thicker around him and made him look like the devil. Those who were around him panicked and backed off. Not even the High King was spared from the suppressive sensation that made everyone simply inferior. Mellerin, the High Elf mage, could barely stand in front of John's stare. It was a beast and prey. One wrong move and death is inevitable. Sadly, John wanted him to move away, and the latter irritated John by freezing at his place. John's expressions twisted into pure anger, and he spoke. Faz. Fear. A word of power was unleashed from John's tongue, and assaulted Mellerin head-on. The High Elf could keep up no more. No. Please. No. The sight of a powerful mage, like Mellerin, crumbling before John was heart-sinking. The Imperial Ambassador was a powerful warrior, but he felt tight in his chest by the amount of suppression John was giving off. The killing intent was real. All of the people here were in the presence of a monster. They recognized the Thursdayum very well. A power only the fiercest of the Nord commanders could employ at the Great War, and a lot of elves were shouted to pieces. Most of the veterans couldn't help but remember the days. The dismay shout that John unleashed was only one word, but it caused Mellerin to collapse and run off like a rat. John suppressed his aura once again, and then looked at High King Torrig. Never in his days did Torrig experience such an aura. The people who kept their ground in this room other than him were Jarl Balgruuf, who seemed very calm, Jarl Idgord, who was glaring at Erikr, Jarl Igmund barely sat at the end of his chair, and Jarl Career was completely composed. The Imperial Ambassador and some other thanes and attendants were powerful enough to withstand John, who didn't even move a muscle or cast a spell. He only shouted one word of the dragon tongue, and most of the people were about to fall in worship. Torrig realized the mistake and glared at Erikr, who acted way too comfortable. John clearly was not the same person who won the tournament 2 years ago. It was a mistake to assume like that. John surely has grown in 2 years, but the growth was shocking. He who was a junior is now making the seniors tremble. Torrig only looked at the woman at the other end of the room and nodded to her. Her movements were light and swift. She walked completely unbothered by John and stood in front of him. Thane John, I understand your anger. This one is on us, but please do mind that you were in the Blue Palace. John looked down at her with his eyes and finally nodded after a long breath. I apologize, Your Grace, Lady Sybil. She nodded and looked towards Jarl Career. Everyone held their breath as Sybil Stentor stepped in. She was going to be the judge. My Jarl, may I? She asked Career with a polite tone of a Breton, and he sighed and took off the helm of Winterhold. Sybil took the helm and turned it towards Torrig. He nodded, and she held the helm or Winterhold with both hands. Blue mystic light enveloped the helm, and Sybil started a divination on the magic power of the helm. The light of her spell fades as quickly as it was cast. She kept looking at the helm for a while with a weird look in her eyes. She frowned for a second and tilted her head in the other. Seriously? That was her impression. The people around were waiting in anticipation for her answer, but she checked again and again. Miss Stentor, Falk Firebeard urged her to talk. Well, here's the thing. There are magic traces on the helm, but they are very thin. Meaning? It means that this helm, it is really ancient. Its enchantment has long since faded. There is no magic on it whatsoever. A strange silence took over the place. It was understandable. John's actions up until now were really suspicious. He refused to answer Eriker's questions about putting a spell on the mind of Jarl Career, and he was about to go wild when Eriker's attendant stepped up to check the helm. That's impossible. One of the people around were fully disbelieving what Sybil said. Sybil turned her head towards that poor fool, and her glare was enough to make him shiver. If it is not the helm, then it is something else. It has to be. Eriker's face was red with anger as he said so. All eyes landed on John once again, who simply didn't show any sort of emotion. In the inside, however, he was smiling widely. I am the one who inherited Ozadil's genius. Do you simply think you can read an enchantment I made if I want to hide it? Reminder, Ozadil's genius is the power bestowed on John when he equips 4 items of Ozadil's set. It boosts his knowledge of enchanting. John has indeed disguised the traces of the enchantment he erased from the helm to make it look like an old enchantment that wasn't renewed or charged in ages. Not even Nurina could tell the difference. Still, the matter wasn't over. The helm was simply the first suspected method. I apologize, my Jarl, but can I check you directly? No touching or anything, just a little divination spell. Sybil turned to Career. She wasn't sure she would find anything now. Career glanced at the people around him with anger. This is a stark humiliation. Your Grace, I will comply with your will, but after this is over, Winterhold has a long list of complaints. Jarl Career said. You have my word, Jarl Career. King Torrig replied. My Jarl, if you have any enchanted item on you, it may interfere with my test. Sybil said. I don't. Carry on. Sybil nodded and evoked a spell. John kept observing with his eyes and could tell that the spell is a very advanced one. Sybil seemed to be well-versed in divination and detection spells. Her spell doesn't even touch Career, but it was some sort of a way to heighten her magic detection ability while observing any magic signal on Career. No signal. Jarl Career is in perfect health mentally and physically. There is no magical effect on him at all. The temperature in the room dropped down a few degrees. This meant a lot for this meeting. Right now Eriker was receiving all the glares. Sybil still didn't stop and turned to John. Thane John, if you excuse me, if you have any enchanted item on you. Sigh. Fine. John sighed and tabbed with his feet on the ground. His strange action had a stranger response. From God knows where, a little girl in a black dress and a big black hat appeared. She was way too cute for anyone to handle, and she stood next to John. Help me out. John took off his bracers, ring, Haven ring, and his cloak. Hell, he even took off an amulet of Talos in front of everyone just like that. He gave all the stuff to Nefertiti. The small girl carried all the John-sized stuff between her small arms and was almost buried in them. She turned around to a small table and put all that on it. Creak bang. The table simply broke. Nefertiti jumped from the fright and looked at the people around with scared expressions. Sorry, just put them away, John said. She still had the Haven cube in her hand. Just like John, she clapped once and all his stuff disappeared in the cube. It was way too weird of a situation, and as if they all forgot about John, all the people looked at Nefertiti with blank expressions. A small child, appearing out of nowhere, carrying something so heavy. Wait, why was it that heavy? Still, she carried it easily and did the same thing as John to make these things disappear. Just what is going on? Nefertiti was normally not shy, but too many strange people around caused her to just stay beside John like a scared little kid. Can we get done with it? John said. Sybil acted as if she couldn't hear John and kept staring at Nefertiti. Something weird made all her skin crawl when the strange girl appeared. She couldn't even see her coming. One must know that Sybil's most important role was to identify threats around Solitude and tell who is coming and who is going, but that was completely out of her sight. Not just that, Nefertiti was powerful, very powerful to just ignore, and all she could feel that she would lose sight of that kid once her eye gets away from her. Miss Stentor. Only Fox's voice was annoying enough for Sybil to wake up from her daze. Oh, right, sorry. Sybil couldn't be in a daze more than that and looked at John. I am starting. She did the same thing on John, and the result was the same as Jarl career at first. But the more she tried to look into John's energy, the deeper the abyss was. At first, she could scry John's soul easily, but to check if there is an anomaly in it, she had to go further. Still, the further she got, the wider it becomes. What is that? Sybil was not a human, but rather a vampire. She can be counted as an undead, and she has already seen a lot in her life, but it was way too much. What kind of a human was that? Can that be still called a human? Undead can shed no sweat, but the shivers she had were all real. She was in front of a human whose body can be said as at the apex state among humanity. His soul was too large for his body. It is impossible to trap such a soul in a black soul gem, even if the King of Worms and the Wolf Queen themselves tried. John noticed what Sybil was doing, and finally his expressions changed. He grinned widely and simply blocked the connection that Sybil established with him. No, wait. Sybil freaked out once the mystic connection was severed. You have already achieved your purpose. More than that is too much, John replied. Sybil. King Torrig was already waiting for the results on the edge of his chair. Sybil turned around and nodded. Thane John. He is a human. No vampirism detected, so it means he cannot use hypnosis with his eyes. He is also very healthy mentally and physically. If I am not mistaken, he is also blessed by multiple divines. Just what answer can be more satisfying to John? He let Sybil see what he wanted to see with ease. A smile was forming on his face as he simply looked around. Gods, he is blessed. Wait, will we get cursed for not standing for him? By the 8, what have we done? Some of the people who were affected by John's fit of anger a while ago were already in a hysteria once again. Only glares from the higher-ups quietened them down. I conclude that there is no mind control whatsoever between Thane John and Jarl Career, and the Helm of Winterhold is clean, Sybil said and walked behind the throne hurriedly. She needed some time to think of what she experienced. This was said by none other than Solitude's court mage. John and Career were in trouble no more, rather. Solitude and the Alliance were in trouble. Now Winterhold is offended and John is smiling viciously. Only Torrig and Fox saw that smile on his face once just a few hours ago. It was when John and Torrig played a game of Gwent. It was the same tactic all along. John would fool his opponent with simplicity and a few mind games. In the Gwent, he played with the minimum amount of cards, not to limit himself, but limit the chances of having useless cards, and he made a strong front the first round to force his opponent to back down only to come stronger the second round. In court, John let Eriker take out all the garbage. He stood silently when Eriker accused him of mind-controlling Jarl Career and acted violently when Eriker's aide was about to check. This was not done whimsically. It was all for the purpose of making himself look guilty and luring Solitude to press further into the matter. Once all was done and John was viewed innocent, he can now have every right to slap back. John misled the royal court of Skyrim and led them by the nose to this point. The sense of crisis was already useless. Eriker couldn't believe any of that. The reports he got were all verified 100%. John Dare and his black pigeons can never interfere with the information network he brought his information from, and for the first time, it was all wrong. The helm was not cursed. Career was not enthralled. He was a fool, way too fool. He should have known that John would never enter the Blue Palace with Jarl Career being mind-controlled. But how? There was no possible answer to such a thing anymore. Still, someone answered. Your Grace. Jarl Career stepped forward and stood in front of John. I was accused of being enthralled, and Thane John was slandered way too much because of that. I know I had a complicated past with the mages, but as life goes, changes happen. Change is sacred. Change is inevitable. 2 years ago, my hold and I were under the control of pirates. I couldn't voice any complaints as everything I was responsible for was taken a hostage, and that includes many good locals. I am sure the other holds are already aware of what kind of predicament Winterhold was in, but still, no one cared. No one cared for over 80 years. We couldn't do anything, and the College of Winterhold shut its door for their own reasons. Yes, things would have changed if the college decided to stick around and save Winterhold, but triggering any animosity with the locals was always too much of a risk. I was one of those angry locals too. As people fled Winterhold year after year, we couldn't come back ever again. We were always short on everything. I know I blamed the college, and I still blame them for not trying, but I realized where I was mistaken, where we were all mistaken. The problem is not magic or mages. It was always us, people. We look down on each other, rob each other, undermine one another. Oblivion. We are about to go into a bloody civil war for what? And to what purpose? For 80 years, Winterhold waited for John Dare. Thane John said that we are not in the Age of Heroes anymore, and Jarl Ulfric is the only relic of the Age of Heroes. He is right. Ulfric is an old relic, but he is also wrong. The Age of Heroes is not over, as John Dare is also a hero. The hero of Winterhold, and I dare you to say a word about that. I'll slap you all. This man is a Nord. The Nordest Nord you can ever see. He's a clever man. He's a tongue. He's a warrior. And you all questioned him and slandered him. He knew it will happen and told me beforehand. Thank the Nine, I already knew this will happen, or else. The east of Skyrim never cared for the west, and the west was always foolhardy and Nordic. Don't get me wrong, this is not racism. This is nature. I was once a man who was blinded by anger and hate, but John Dare came to me and said, I will change everything. Winterhold will be great again. Let's rebuild the hold of Iskramore, the town of Shalader, the city of the first men. He had a plan to free Winterhold and stepped up to it when no one else did for 80 years. He told me it is a wager that won't cost me a septim, and look where it got us. Now, you all want to say that I was enthralled or Thane John is corrupt? Well, you got my full attention. Those who accuse the hero of Winterhold of anything bad are to be judged. Thane John, they are yours. Jarl Career returned to his seat after a heated speech. For the very first time in a long while through history, the old capital of Winterhold is demanding an explanation of the new capital of Solitude. John stepped forward and looked at King Torrig and Eriker. Your Grace, Winterhold submits an official complaint against Thane Eriker. I, the Thane of Winterhold, accuse Eriker, the Thane of Hafingar, with the attempt of defamation, false accusation in a public court, commencing unauthorized searches outside his area of jurisdiction, public shaming and slandering, the attempt of framing innocent people with the crime of treason. What else? Oh yes. Disregarding the ethics of noble standards in the royal court in front of an imperial envoys, causing discord between many business partners, as well as more than 50 other accusations. All will be issued and presented to the court. John, the lawyer, was going berserk with all the crimes that came to his mind. The scribe of the assembly was already at a loss of what to record and what not to record. Thane John, this is enough. Falk Firebeard stood forward. Please file your complaints and we will see to them. Regarding today events, the internal affairs of the Blue Palace will handle it. Good. I expect answers and fair compensation. John didn't back down the slightest in front of the Court of Solitude. The tension was clear. Solitude won't insult John Dare and expect it to go away. They have to pay. Falk looked at Torrig, and the latter was still evaluating the situation. Don't take it too far, John Dare. Sadly, Torrig's words came too late, and the one who spoke was the one who shouldn't speak, Eriker. Too far? You took it too far. Why don't I take it at least as far as you did? You are going down and going down hard. Why don't you simply admit your wrongdoing, and maybe you will be granted the benefit of admitting them? John returned the same words Eriker said for him. You are pushing your luck. Eriker was already boiling with anger. It is a good luck, that one of mine. I can push it all the way to oblivion and come back alive. Did it a few times if you are curious. Sadly, you are the one who thought that you can kill me by just a few accusations that you couldn't even build a case on. How disappointing. John turned around to his seat. Kill you? Eriker questioned with a funny face. Kid, I wasn't even trying. John halted his steps. Everyone looked at Eriker, whose expressions were not good. He was looking at John with vicious eyes. If I wanted to kill you, I should shame you first, destroy your reputation, and make no one mourn your death. Sadly, you managed to trick the court somehow and got away with it. Now, you are just dying. You don't know it yet, but your fate was already set in stone. Eriker's words were not coming from the usual him. The people of the court could tell that the twist in Eriker's face was common to them, but there was always a certain high elf who comes and stops Eriker from doing something he will regret. Sadly, that high elf was shouted away by John, and Eriker has no leash. John's eyes narrowed and walked back to Eriker. Do it. Take your best shot. Tell whoever you brought to take it. I will give you the first move. John said with a mocking smile. Eriker was unfazed. I am afraid a brute like you don't understand how things go around here. We don't kill you with our knives. We make you walk into your own death, fully aware. Yeah, good luck with that. John no longer bothered. Eriker giggled and spoke to John. You think you are safe. You think your family is safe. Well, you're right. You built Winterhold, so no one can hurt your people. Well done. But you are already drowning in your own success. Surely you won't see that one coming. Oh? John didn't understand what Eriker fully, but he was sure that Eriker has done something, and it went without him noticing. Still, John couldn't point at anything he missed. His plans were perfect, yet Eriker seemed very sure. Yes, that's the face I wanted to see. Eriker was drunk in a victory only he knew about. Eriker, cut it out. Falk seemed annoyed. What have you done, Eriker? Torrig asked. Still, Eriker was looking at John, not wanting to miss the questioning expressions he captured. Speak, slime. John, too, was at the end of his patience. Why don't you wait? You will know soon enough. We all will. Eriker. Thane Bryling shouted at Eriker to wake him from his state of madness. Eriker looked at her with a sneer and looked at John again. Fine, I will give you a hint. Let's say, Orsinium doesn't invite Nords that often. None could understand what Eriker meant, but John's eyes blinked a few times in realization. Viarmo and Jeliner could guess what Eriker meant and shot up from their seats. Those who saw John's face already realized that the crisis is unavoidable. In the next second, hurried footsteps could be heard coming from outside the throne room. It was a palace guard running as fast as he could with a letter. A calling from the Reach. A calling from the Reach. The guard ran and ignoring everyone and gave the letter to Falk. The atmosphere was too unstable to withstand another surprise, but Jarligmund and his aides were also stood up. Falk read the letter, and his expressions crumbled. Your Grace, Jarligmund, there is a situation in the Reach. The clans around Markarth and the Forsworn all started fighting. Only a few could guess that the two situations regarding Markarth and Erikr are connected. Erikr himself was taken aback for a second, but none could foresee what happened next. Vik Mathar. Defeat, fall, obey. John shouted the tyranny shout. All who heard the shout fell on their knees. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.